The walls of time are breaking down. You need to listen. The only way to save the universe. Watch Type 40.
It's time for Type 40 Live, materialising here again with the live stream Doctor Who magazine show up across your view screen here in real time on Rumble, X, YouTube and on Facebook too. We're sat here humbly in front of a live chat full of friends, fans and companions just like you, all fans of Doctor Who, all basking in 61 years of the world's longest running, best loved geeky TV, sci-fi, adventure, fantasy TV series. All those incarnations of the Doctor, so much to talk about and to get into. We'll share as much of it as we can, as gloves off, as ever, here at Type 40.
Welcome to Type 40.
Hello, I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's King of the Geeks, and as another weekend approaches, maybe you'll catch some sun, I don't know, it's a Who-less weekend, technically no Doctor Who on the telly, but that's never the case here at Type 40 Live. So yeah, the football everybody, that may be coming home, maybe, good luck. Obviously, good luck, England. Here, though, we are proper geeks, and we don't really do any of that. We get the football on this thing, not when there's so much left to read, to listen to, and to fast return back here to the console room to gas about on the free speaking, big thinking, open forum for all opinions here in the Type 40 Live console room. This is where we do it all, the past, the present and the future of the Whoniverse, all put to rights, and where I bring in the panel too. Please remember, if you're watching there in the Type 40 Facebook group, 8 years plus now of the Type 40 Facebook group, remember to hit the little blue link. Otherwise, we'll have no idea who you are. It just comes up as Facebook user, and saying F you, well, that's not very polite. Even for us, is it? So yeah, hit the little blue link, and then that will tell us back here in the console room exactly who you are. Okay, let's huddle round the TV, waiting for anything but the football to come on and bring them in. Who's here first? I've got she's wriggling on the spot, so I know she can't wait to get started. Probably got a lot to say, plugging those plot holes and dishing those truths, but in the warm way that one could only expect from Charlotte Shields.
I thought you were going to say about the football, and I was like, no. I watch my family react to that. It's my entertainment for the night, not the actual match. My actual parents get very animated, and it's quite fun to watch them.
So you sit there in an opposing armchair just watching them watch the TV?
Because they get so into it, and it's just sort of something that I half watch because it's on, if it's on.
Well, it's strange. It's strange, isn't it? As somebody who doesn't do football, I don't do any of those kind of sports. When it comes around to a big tournament like the European Championships at the moment, the European Football Cup, whatever it is, every 4 years, the nation gets very, very excited because we're the biggest footballing nation in the world, really. And when the people in your life, the family members in your life really care about this stuff, in all sincerity, it can be quite funny. But you don't like seeing people's hopes get built up and then dashed, do you?
No, and like that's good. I can guarantee this week the presses are going to be very much fun with this football stuff. It's like, let's just wait until the match, the final, everybody, before we start saying they're going to bring it home. That's just
Before we
sick.
get too carried away. Actually, I'm speaking for us here, Charlotte. I can't speak for all of them. For all I know, for example, Jack in the Nerd Den, he could be a massive football fan. There's only one way to find out, isn't there? Hello, Jack.
Hello. Football, isn't that the one with the sticks?
Near enough.
near
Yeah,
enough.
they wear socks. You don't do the football then.
No, not really. I mean, well, when it comes to seeing England play, then yeah, I'll support the country and stuff, and go down to the pub and watch the match and stuff.
Yeah, do all that. Whee!
Woo, lads.
A can on the go, that kind of thing.
Oh yes.
So when non-geeks, when like normal people ask you about football, do you admit to the fact that you don't watch it, or do you sort of go, "Oh yeah, they did great," and then change the subject to talk about something else?
Yeah, basically, yeah. That's kind of a conversation about football for me in a nutshell, to be honest.
That's
I'm not very
exactly what I do.
Not very analytical.
The social aspect is quite nice, though, isn't it? But who needs that when we've got all this and the rest of our panel? In particular, he looks like the Dark Lord of the Sith. Yeah. But then I remember that where he is, it's in the middle of winter, isn't it? It's our real life time traveller. It's already Friday for him. In fact, it may be the Friday after this Friday, for all I know. It's Mr. Matt Pott.
Hello.
Oh.
You haven't taken... have you joined the religious order?
No, I'm actually Ruby's mother.
You're like Brother Cadfael sat there.
You point dramatically then.
Well, I was gonna actually join the order, so there you go.
You heard it here first, everybody.
I was.
I think the church would probably fall in on you, wouldn't it?
No, we just weren't going to be compatible.
Good stuff. Good
You
stuff.
know
How
what
have you
I
been?
mean?
Yeah,
No,
I get a fair
good.
idea. Have you been this week, mate? It's been a few days. What's been going on with you?
Well, besides, we've been sort of like stuck in weather hell at the moment. So we've had really bad weather. So we've sort of been hunkered down at home at the moment. So plus there's roadworks and everything like that. So we can't actually leave our driveway. So it's really fantastic. Great. So I've just been watching a lot of YouTube, really. Catching up on all the stuff I've missed. So, yeah.
Yeah, you sent me a link about something you've been watching earlier on, you mucky pup. We know exactly what you've been catching up on.
It came up in my recommendations, Dan. I have no idea why.
Of course, you
We
don't really
believe you,
do.
Matt.
But I have been sharing it around.
You don't really do soccer where you are, do you? You do the football where they all wear pads and run at one another. Is that kind of thing?
Well, yeah, I mean, we have this. Our actual female soccer team are actually better than our male team. So
okay.
They're called the Matildas. So, yeah, so that's the only time that anyone really ever gets, worked up about this sort of stuff. But I'm not interested because they're just a bunch of ladies, really, that are quite manly. So
you want the eye candy, don't you? You want the eye candy. We all love a bit of eye candy here, don't we? And here at Type 40 Live, we have some eye candy to bring to you as well out there. Yes, it's the ever floral, the ever fragrant, all the way from sunny Lichfield. It's Mr. Simon Horton, who's right. I can see him rolling his eyes now.
I can't wait to see his face now when you bring him on.
I just don't. Am I the eye candy?
Looks like it.
No, you're not
Hello, mate.
talking about me as the eye candy. You're talking about Lenny as the eye
No,
candy.
Lenny.
Aren't they? That's who they're talking
Check him
about.
out.
It's all about Lenny. It's all about Lenny.
Have you both been this week?
Well, God, I mean, Matt, you talk about having bad weather. I mean, boy, has it been awful weather here. What has happened to the
shocking
to the summer? Yeah. I have spent all day outdoors in the pouring rain, organising portaloos. I kid you not, moving portaloos, organising portaloos, setting them up, setting up marquees, because we've got a big free festival in Lichfield this weekend. Fuse, if anybody is in the Staffordshire area, come on down to Lichfield, a big free festival for everybody in the park. And so I've been helping set up all the Portaloos. It's very glamorous in my world. I'll be there all weekends. I will be there helping out all weekend. So seriously, if you're in the area, come down to Lichfield, come to Fuse, and come and say hello to me, because I'll be there.
So
By
you'll be killing.
You'll be near the Portaloos.
Obviously, Simon, you'll just be finding. You'll just be finding a way to kill some time until the European Football Cup's on.
Listen, I didn't even know that England were in the tournament, let alone that they've ended up in the. Are they in the semi-finals or something?
We're through to the final, amazingly.
I literally had no idea we were even in it. I thought we'd been knocked out weeks ago. I clearly I have zero interest in football. Zero.
I do just assume that we're going to get knocked out. Mickey Smith, of course, he insisted on knowing whether the scanner in the TARDIS could pick up the football back in 2005. Do you remember that, Jack?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Retrodoc, you're very clever. Retrodoc's just said in the chat, Portaloos, not Portaloos, Portaloos. There is. I don't know whether it's just in this area or if it's UK wide, but there is a company called TARDIS that provides Portaloos, don't they?
Seen them.
And I've always wondered whether they've actually got a license from the BBC or whether they've just slipped
Probably
under
not.
the radar. But they use the word and they use the police box logo on everything, and they provide.
They've been around for a long time. I think they set up in the gap between the classic series and the new series. They've been doing it for quite a long time. And I think the BBC were happy for them to do that back then, to establish it, because I suppose they weren't doing anything with the IP. So we may as well license it out.
Yeah, maybe
because
they did.
It was under some sort of agreement, because the BBC do own the emblem, the visual marker of the police box, don't they? Icons. Doctor Who will return. We were promised a couple of weeks ago at the end of the last season. So it's been nearly 2 weeks since all that wrapped up. So where do you go to get your fix of the sights and the sounds and all that hyperbole, Simon, that you like so much there from the likes of Russell T Davies? Well, I'm happy to say that now we're not really sure whether he's going to be there or not, but we are now within sniffing distance of the main event of the geeky global calendar. San Diego Comic-Con is on later this month. Now, this event, this international event, has suffered a little in recent years as things were tailing off even before the pandemic. But even the years since have seen a big decline in interest around this 4-day event. There was a writer's strike. I think there's been an actor's strike as well. None of that helps. And rather a change in the culture with the entire brands, Matt, choosing to simply not go, to not put all their eggs in this particular basket anymore. You've been to the Comic-Con, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. I went 2008, and that pretty much hit the peak around 2008, 2009. And since then, it's just gone downhill. So that
was around the time the MCU was launching.
Yeah, it was. It was a big year. There were huge TV shows and that coming out, and it was a fantastic time. I'll never forget it. But I was never in a rush afterwards to go back. It's really gone downhill.
I think the culture wars have taken their toll on it as well.
It's a bit hard too when it was like we had like over 100,000. It was 100,000 people, and it became so bad with the getting tickets that they ended up getting lotteries. So it was just silly. So.
Yeah, it does sound like a bit of a nightmare to get there and to get the tickets. For 2024, the organisers have promised that it'll be back in full force. Jack, you run the Nerd Den. It's not just Doctor Who that you're interested in, is it? It's other properties too. Is this something that you've been following over the years? Are you aware of the failing fortunes, the rise and fall of Comic-Con? Yeah,
I have. I mean, even over here in the UK as well, with various Comic-Con companies, I feel like the interest in these conventions has kind of gone down a lot. I mean, even with Showmasters, they've put a priority on, I guess, getting the most expensive guests in rather than the actual venues themselves, making them accessible. Or to be honest, there's a lot of greed there. with these Comic Cons. I mean, I've seen someone already mention it in the chat, but like the price, for example, of Shooty Gatwa being at Showmasters in November,
That's right.
It's like £125 for an autograph.
Yeah,
which I know it's nowhere near the most expensive, but it's bizarre, you know, and especially like, you know, in this current day and age as well. Like, I think it's just a bit cheeky, to be honest.
Yeah, he's even charging 20 quid for a chat. We covered it all on the last show the other day. Quite extraordinary. Obviously, this is a considerably bigger event. It takes place over 4 days. This year from July the 25th to the 28th, but still at the San Diego Convention Center. There was a time, a brief window, Matt, when Doctor Who made quite an impact at San Diego Comic Con.
God, yes.
Could there be a return on the cards, though? Because this has been a big year for the show, attached to the Disney brand for the first time. But there's not really been so much of a whisper so far. We're only a few weeks away.
When I went in 2008, Torchwood was the big draw card. And people were disappointed because there wasn't a lot of Doctor Who stuff there. They were selling the action figures and that sort of thing, but not really anything Doctor Who related. And in 2009, which was the year that I didn't go, was the year that David Tennant was leaving, and David Tennant was there, and it just blew up. The whole Doctor Who thing blew up there. It was massive. I had friends that had gone the year previously, and they're like, we can't afford it. We can't afford it. Then David Tennant was going, and it was like, we can afford it. We can afford it.
We're going now.
Yeah, we're going now. So, yeah, you know, that was the big draw card for us Who fans.
Once Doctor Who really took off on Netflix, Matt Smith, Karen Gillan, and the rest of them did make quite an impact there over a 2 or 3 year period. It built very, very nicely for Doctor Who whilst it was on Netflix, and kind of reached a bit of a pinnacle. The last time it made any kind of splash whatsoever was when Jodie Whittaker was there in 2018, and then people saw the episodes, and and it kind of went down like a fight in a lift.
But Dan, before that, they saw that whole thing on the walkway with her, didn't they? Like, I remember that actually being a thing of the fans at the time, was being like, is that the best idea before we've seen her in an episode?
Oh yeah, the fashion show.
Prancing down a walkway, almost showing off, look at me, I'm female Doctor. Like, that's the vibe it had at the time.
Friend of the show, Monica Duarte, has been on the podcast a few times from Temple of Geek. She was there photographing the various different people exhibiting clothes, Simon, and she said the atmosphere at this place was absolutely electric. But it was a good 2 or 3 months before those episodes screened, and the following year, Doctor Who didn't have a presence there, really, at all. Says it all, really, doesn't it? Yeah. This year, so Marvel are returning to San Diego Comic-Con after a gap of a couple of years. Yeah. And they're supposed to be occupying Hall H as well, which is the huge, like an aircraft hangar, isn't it, that place? We've all seen pictures. Of it. But the larger space around it, Matt, there's some booths and dealers and merchandise stalls exhibiting costumes, all manner of things, isn't there, and gadgets and the usual kind of Batmobiles, all that kind of thing goes on around it, just on a huge scale. And here we've got a look at the floor plan to the whole thing. You see where some of the big brands are pitched up, some of the big logos. So you can make out Marvel, which you'd expect to see them there. Marvel and DC, the two actual comic book companies. But you've also got Dark Horse Comics and Image Comics as well. Funko's have got their own area, so lots of the brands that you recognise seem to be drifting back to it. But you think, where's Doctor Who? But it turns out that Doctor Who is there. If you look towards the left, it's there. It's right next to a really quite small Disney Plus stand, and with Nickelodeon just over from it. So yes, Doctor Who will have a presence of sorts at San Diego Comic-Con from July the 25th to the 28th. Obviously, being next to the Disney Plus booth, is that a sign that this is likely just a really obvious cold corporate thing, Simon? You know, just handing out a few flyers and maybe a couple of goodie bags rather than actually guests from the show and things like that?
It's difficult to tell, isn't it? It's interesting. I mean, you look at Nickelodeon opposite, and they've got a massive stand.
Far bigger.
Yeah, I mean, it's 3 times the size of Disney, it seems, or certainly twice the size of Disney. Yeah, you just kind of think, has Disney fallen that far that they're just on a stand that big? And then Doctor Who is just barely there. And again, you compare that to the size of the Marvel stand. But I mean, does any of this surprise us? Well, no, of course it doesn't, not in the slightest. We know that Doctor Who has just got so little interest at the moment. But it's just heartbreaking how far we've fallen. I mean, funnily enough, I was watching something on iPlayer last night, and they've started, I don't know whether anybody else has noticed, but they've actually started trailering Doctor Who again before shows on iPlayer now, quite aggressively. Before everything that comes on iPlayer now, it seems you get the old trailer, Where Can We Go Everywhere, or whatever it is. And it's odd, it just popped up unexpectedly the first time, as I say, was it last night? And I have to be honest, it just really grated on me. The minute it popped up, I was immediately irritated by his voice, by him, by what he was saying, by the dialogue, by the style, by everything, by Millie's voice, by her response, just purely because I'm so out of love with the show at the moment that it grates on me. And there we go. Literally just that imagery grates on me. Your cosmic joyride awaits. Doesn't that sound hollow now
now we're on the other side of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, and this is just sort of my speculation, that maybe at one point there was going to be a bigger presence.
Maybe.
And then they saw the media rounds before the show. They saw the way the cast were acting and the showrunner was acting.
Maybe.
And then they saw the ratings. And they were like, is it worth us doing a big splashy panel when actually what Simon's talking to, a lot of people are just disillusioned right now for different reasons. That's what also I'm picking up at the moment. For some, it's the actors. For some, it's the writing. For some, it's the way certain things were handled. And it just seems to be a whole cloud is back over the show again.
Yeah.
And I just can't help but think maybe if they hadn't done those interviews and the episodes got received better, that maybe they would have been a lot more confident.
Oh, do you know what, Charlotte? Can you think about it? If you think back, as we've compared so many times on this show, for example, to the height of the David Tennant days, or Matt Smith in America, if it was that big, would they be on a stand that big? Of course they wouldn't. They'd be on a Nickelodeon stand. We know that. It's obvious.
Yeah, like even if you ignore the big stands to the left-hand side, like you said, even in that sort of right-hand side where it's clear, it's the lesser brands. Like, look at the brands that are there.
Yeah.
They're not juggernauts. They're not big names. They've got fan bases, and I'm not discrediting, but when you're next to Nickelodeon and Bandai Namco and Crunchyroll, when on the other side you've got Star Wars, you've got Marvel, you've got DC, you've got Funko, like brands that are still quite big for what they are, for sort of their audiences. And Doctor Who's sort of been shifted over, it looks like, to the right-hand side, where I think it looks like to me you'll probably get a little bit of merchandise being sold there, and you might get a little bit of like a poster, maybe. That might be exclusive to the event, but there's nothing.
Some leftover posters from when the thing premiered a couple of months ago. I suppose the conceit will now be on the iPlayer that, binge watch the entire season, Jack, for people, particularly people who have perhaps they've finished the academic year, they've got a lot of things built up on their playlist that they've been meaning to catch. Those will be the people that they want to get on board so they can accumulate more on the stats on those long-term viewing figures, which is kind of the streaming model now, isn't it? But I was interested because you haven't been on the show throughout the duration of the series, really. So what's your perception of it now? Now we are on the other side of season 1. As you can see, we're a little downhearted about it here. Yeah. But what's been your experience within your friends group or family? Do you think the series has made an impact at all? And how do you think it's working out for an iPlayer?
So, from my perspective, I've still enjoyed a fair amount of the season and the performances, but I'm incredibly let down in terms of the series arc. I feel like it was completely rushed. filled with so many plot holes. I've started to lose faith in Russell as a writer, and it's a shame because I was a big fan of his work. In terms of my friends, they're kind of feeling the same as well. And my family, not many of them have tuned in to watch it past the first couple of episodes when they dropped.
It's a shame.
Yeah, it is. And I'm still excited for the future of Doctor Who because, I've always been a Doctor Who fan. I always will be. But I can see where a lot of the frustration is coming from. And I do feel like this era, there's been a big premise. There's been a lot of, there was a lot of excitement, starting off from the 60th specials. But I feel like all that excitement built up quite quickly and it's plummeted hard.
Yeah,
it really has. And whether that's because of the content in the episodes or because of the actions of the cast and crew,
who knows? I suppose time will tell. We haven't even got the AAI figures back yet, or certainly not officially. Yeah. I think it could be some wait for those. But obviously, the more that word gets around about, the more people compare notes all over the world this time. I mean, this is the thing when you take something to a global stage, the potential reward that you will reap is clear. It's very obvious what that will be. It will be a global appetite and energy propelling your brand. But if it doesn't work out, you end up with this kind of dull whimper, really, and something seems to be old news before the print's even dried on the paper.
Well, I think last year even was better than this year as far as hype is concerned, because you had people all wanting that sonic screwdriver.
Oh
for
yeah,
the 60th, and that was the special limited edition one.
That was around this time last year, wasn't it? Yeah.
That was an exclusive for Comic-Con, the Chrome one. So, and then I think they released the other one later on at the the cheaper
there's a golden one now for whatever reason. There was never a golden one on the TV, but what the hell? Oh yes, so that's
the hype is sort of gone really for this year. I didn't even know that they were going to be showing up.
Who knows? Obviously, if you're going to be there in San Diego for Comic-Con this year, between the 25th and the 28th of July, let us know whether you were going there on the hope of catching some Doctor Who action of some kind, and are you disappointed? The reality seems to be setting in that there isn't going to be any. Let's go and check in with our friends in the live chat on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X, and give them the whole H experience as best that we can.
Hi guys, and welcome to Type 40.
Welcome back, everybody, in the live chat. Let's go and check in with them. What's going on? Who's saying what? And is any of it decent?
There's lots of new names in the chat this evening. Hello
lovely
to
to see,
all the new people who, by the looks of it, there's quite a few people watching us for the very first time. So
I thought you said subscribe, subscribe, please.
I thought you said hello to all the nude people. I thought, Bobby, we got the naturist crowd in. That's the market I didn't think we'd tap in on.
One-track mind you've got.
It has been said before. It has been said before, mate. Okay, who's here and what are they doing? We've got, blimey, there is a lot. We've got Charlotte. Yeah, oh, you're here. We've got Charlotte. We've got Lord Thoth. We've got Lord Thoth. He's not here, but he's here anyway. Crimpling Doubloon too. Happy to see you back, as well as Rose Kirby there, just warming up. Hello, chat. Type 40 TARDIS. Mrs. Lisa Pertwee's gal is in as well.
I like that name.
Love that. Hello.
Hello.
Mrs. Lisa
I'd change
Pertwee.
my name to Pertwee. I would.
Excellent. We've got, let's look for some of these names. We've got Peter Harrington back in the live chat. Good to have you with us, sir. We've got Vanessa Law as well, going emoji crazy. Yeah. Hello, everyone, says David Jenkins. Hello, there, another one of Litchfield's favourite sons.
Absolutely. Good, David.
Rob Alexander's in too. Simon, greetings, friends, Romans, Gallifreyman. Happy Thursday to all on the Type 40 panel and in the chat. He's spreading it around, putting it about. Ben Casey says, evening all. as well. It is. This is what we like, isn't it, Simon?
Bit of friendliness. It's all good.
Ben is adamant that it's coming home, baby. I think it means the football. I think
We think we've got a football fan.
it means a football, Charlotte. It means a football. Ships ahoy, Hoovians from Haby.
Is
Hello, Haby.
Hello, Haby. Not seen that name before.
And Ashvin's here too with hello there, my dear friends. Oh, what a nice thing to say.
Hello, Ashvin.
John Yulden is a poorly child this evening. He's not very well. He's laid up with the old Rona. So get well soon, buddy. Glad you're there in the live chat, though. And we've got them one from you there as well, Jack. We've got Mrs. Lisa Pertwee. Going crazy here. Tom's in too. Tom from T-Dwarf Productions.
Hello, Tom.
Hi, everyone. Sorry I'm late.
listen.
Getting a new pet kitten this weekend.
Wow.
I can't keep up with it. It's like a menagerie round at his place, isn't it?
He's got so many pets. He's got a new pet crab, I think. Has the new pet crab arrived yet, Tom? And now he's having a kitten as well. And look at Aiden. Why is there a sad face after saying hello from Florida? Why is there a sad face?
You can go off.
Struggling
You can
with
go
the
off.
Very,
heat,
very
Aiden.
hot.
Oh, I wish I was in Florida right now. I'll tell you that.
We can go off, people, you know. Stephen Brannick's in too. Hi, Dan. Hi, Stephen. Quick question to everyone on Type 40, says Tom. Oh, he's keeping us braced for that. He's asking, here we are. What is your star sign? I think we talked about this with Shah the other night. What's your star sign?
Taurus the bull I am.
What's yours, Matt?
I'm Sagittarius. I'm half donkey.
like the one in Shrek.
Guess which half?
Oh, don't give us that joke. I'm Scorpio.
And I'm a Taurus.
You're
I've got two Taurus.
Yeah.
I am right on the cusp, but I am officially an Aries, but I've got Taurus sort of intruding here and there. Darren is in and he says, football? Please, no, I've come here to escape all that.
Yeah, don't worry, no more talk about football.
Lenny in the house, lots to talk about, Lenny.
Yeah. He's still here. Lenny is still here. He's on my lap, chewing his blanket. There he is. He's still there. Here's his blanket in holes.
He loves
Working his way through that. We've got Mo Shea in the live chat as well, and Jack Thursby too, talking about Portaloo prices. They're comparing prices on what?
Portaloo's are budget police boxes. Yeah, they are. They're definitely. After today, I can definitely say they're not bigger on the inside than on the outside. That's for sure.
We have Robert Payne in too, and we have Gary Akers. Yeah, just as you said. Okay. From the live chat, Michael Q's in as well, and Divining Dragon.
That's
Divining
Dragon. That's a new name. Hello, Divining DD.
Yeah, it does ring a bell. I think the picture rings a bell. Maybe they've changed their name. I don't know. Stephen Braddock says, "Please don't rush back, Russell T Davies. I'll just enjoy my classic Doctor Who." Oh dear. And Tom says, "I love comics. Going to Comic Cons."
Yeah, Tom goes to Comic Cons a lot and meets various stars, and then gives them one of the little figures that he's made. It's just brilliant. I love what he does.
He gives more than he takes, doesn't he? That's how Tom.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. Cheryl's in the live chat. Hi, everyone. My favourite part of the evening. Oh, well, that's a lovely thing to say. Thank you so much. Divining Dragon says, the merchandise that Doctor Who used to monopolise on end caps and shelves seems to have disappeared, and I haven't seen anything for the Whittaker or Gatwa eras. I've seen some things like T-shirts and hoodies and the odd bit, and backpacks as well. Charlotte, do you remember those?
Yeah, but there's no like sort of big thing, is there yet? When you would have thought at this point there would be some big like ticket toy something attached to the first series.
Quickly made. The stuff that they've produced so far is so quickly made.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It's pointless. Yeah.
Where's the TARDIS playset?
Very tatty, isn't it? The stuff.
Yeah, very tatty.
It's stuff that you would expect in a show bag or something like that. Do you guys have show bags there?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just something you'd get a little bag, of treats or whatever. But treats. But
yeah. Stephen Braddock speculates here that we will never see the AAI figures. The BBC have chucked them in the time vortex, never to be seen again. What do you mean again?
Well, It's funny you say that, because I was looking on Wikipedia and
Yes.
there's a list of Doctor Who episodes on there. Was one of their entries that lists every episode down with viewing figures and AI figures. And up until recently, they've had a column for AI figures for this season with TBA in every one of them. They've now actually removed the column from Wikipedia. I actually have a feeling these figures are never going to be released.
Coming.
I don't think we're ever going to see them. I honestly believe that.
Do you think Disney had something to do with it?
I really don't know.
No,
it's a British
BBC.
thing.
This would
No,
be the BBC
I know, but whether or not
their own backsides.
Whether or not they're connected or not, I don't know.
No. There is a certain culture around this show now that thinks that Disney is involved with absolutely everything in it, and it's not. It's only really the stuff that goes on that platform. That's all they can really control. They certainly can't interfere with British ratings and the way those metrics are gathered, because it's all geared around the advertising industry. You see, it's not even really for public service broadcasters. It's more for commercial television that those are published. And Mrs. Lisa, she's there boasting about how super hot and sunny it is in Western Canada. Bloody hell, you can go off, people. I don't know. Yeah, keep those comments coming. We want more
She
of
looks
all
rugged
of
up,
that.
that's for sure.
She looks what?
She looks rugged up.
Is that a good thing?
You know?
Oh, rugged up.
That's
Got
fine
it.
in the snow, yeah.
Jack Thursby says, can someone explain the AI figures? We've explained them so many times on this show. Jack, if you go back and check out one of the reviews of the many episodes of the show that we've done, we've gone through that over and over and over again. I think we've been speaking about the AI figures long before everybody else was. Now, of course, now they're missing. People are really interested in the figures, but nobody bothered with them before. People always used to ask me why I bothered covering them, and this is why, because they are a good barometer as to how your show is doing with the general public, whether the people who want to watch it enjoy the damn thing, and whether they're likely to turn up again next week. BBC won't share the figures. Blah, blah, blah. Paul Toastland says, if this had been a success on Disney, they'd be shouting about it. I'm not a Disney customer, so I don't know whether they are shouting about it or not. And Disney Plus have got a presence here, but you do see billboards and things like that, and there was some at the time, but the platform seems to move so quickly, doesn't it, Jack? You know, they've got these junctions where one show shows for 8 weeks, and there's lots of advertising, and something else comes and takes its place. So I have no idea how you would judge that, particularly in Britain, where it's not its first home. We're not best placed to judge, are we?
Yeah, exactly. And like as you said, Disney Plus, there's a constant rotation, especially between like Star Wars and Marvel. Like they're releasing shows for them, you know, practically on a regular basis. So yeah, something like Doctor Who, and I don't think we know how well Doctor Who's done on Disney Plus. So, you know. I mean, you can't really judge too much on that just yet, because the way Disney Plus works, when it comes to marketing.
So we can surmise, and you can sort of look at rough figures, but there's nothing comprehensive whatsoever. Certainly nothing I'd be confident in nailing down and saying, okay, this proves X, Y, or Z. I think we can look at those, because again, we don't know what we don't really know what Disney wanted of the show, and where their markers are that qualify it for success in their eyes. Yeah. I do agree with Paul up to a point. I think that if they would be shouting it from the rooftops, and the fact that we all, you know, I follow Disney Plus, obviously, Matt, on social media, so I see what they push out, and I've seen no great big sort of graphics emblazoned with, you know, massive success for Doctor Who, and this series has been amazing. I've seen nothing yet, which does lead me to believe that perhaps Paul is onto something. But until we see something sort of comprehensive and official, then I don't want to make any sweeping statements about it. But you've now unsubscribed from Disney Plus, haven't you, Matt?
Yes, I have it until the end of November, and because I pay an annual fee. So,
but you won't be coming
I'm
back.
finishing it. No, I'm done. Rogue killed it.
He's out
completely.
Yeah, I feel
he's out.
Me too. I am out as well. And as I say, funnily enough, this trailer that I saw on iPlayer convinced me that's it. I am done. I'm out. Can't stand any more of it.
What we can stand a lot more of is the... Sorry, Matt.
No, you're right. Oh, no, I was going to say this whole AA thing, the audience appreciation thing, really has set a precedent now, hasn't it? As far as not releasing it. So I'd be interested to know if they ever do that with any other shows in the future, or if this just seems to be particularly for Doctor Who.
Whether it could become the norm for shows that premiere on the iPlayer, Jack, because whilst Doctor Who isn't the first show to premiere in this way, I think it's the first one. I think plenty have dropped, for example, the entire series all at once on the iPlayer and then screen them every week. But I'm not sure that any other show has ever had that kind of weekly drop in tandem with another platform entirely. I think that is unique to Doctor Who. I could be wrong, but I can't think of one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Doctor Who is like I guess, sort of unique in that sense as well. Like there's been a lot of eggs put in the basket in terms of this Disney deal, and I don't know. Yeah, we've got another season in the can, which does slightly worry me because I know that's been filmed, and I just feel like, if we get more of the same, then people aren't going to be happy, including myself. You know, and that's from someone who has generally enjoyed it up until
same.
finale. But if we end up getting the same again, I just feel like, you're going to be pushing the casual audience and also the hardcore fans as well away. You know, when you're pushing two sides of people that you're trying to win over away, you're going to be left with no one. And again, we don't know if Doctor Who's successful with Disney, but as Russell has said in interviews previous, it hasn't been renewed past this season. That's the next season that's in the can. So what's going to happen?
He's not going to confirm that. I mean, as I've said before, I spoke about this a few weeks ago. The series has been recommissioned. They're just not going to tell us about it until the end of the year. They want that fanfare. They'll make a big splash about it when it's official that they can talk about it. But the series has been renewed for a third season with Ncuti Gatwa. And we've been speaking about that for a little while now. Obviously, thanks. We want more of those comments from you in the live chat there. Keep it all coming, whether it's the past, the present, and the future, or the future of Doctor Who. All the conversations continue all at the same time here at Type 40 Live. And whilst we're at it, we want to we want to direct you. Where is it? Here. Yes, here. Head over to the Type 40 home feed, our home page there for the podcasts, type40.podbean.com, and we're across all major podcatchers too with our regular podcast, the Type 40 podcast. 6 years old this week, I think it is, and our latest episode there, that review of Space Babies with myself, Simon, and Charlotte, a deep dive review of the season premiere for Season 1 of All New Doctor Who, where I don't think any of us saw eye to eye at all there. It's a great review, even if I say so myself. We have lots of comments about it. People really, really do respect at least the fact that we put it out there, Charlotte, which is, I think that's probably what counts. Okay, what next and where? I think, very, very confusing. Yes, so who's confused? I'm not confused here. It's all very, very clear. So in entertainment terms, there are certain phrases that we as dedicated fans of a series like Doctor Who probably know more than the normies who watch TV do. We watch Doctor Who, but it's not in a passive way. We speak about this quite a lot, don't we, Simon? And I think it's no coincidence that so many people who watch Doctor Who, get really into it and obsessed with it, do end up wanting to get into the industry, to work in TV, to influence Doctor Who, but to also see a little behind the curtain. There are several expressions that are bountiful when it comes to entertainment that we hear bandied around, things that we recognise. But I think the one term that I think we understand earliest is the term breaking the fourth wall. Plenty of TV shows and movies have done this over the years, sometimes now and again, or for others, it becomes sort of a distinctive part of that TV series identity, of its connection with the viewers. I mean, I'm thinking about shows like The Saint, Lovejoy, Ally McBeal there, and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. They all had that kind of weekly interactive element with their audience. It builds up the relationship and gives the show its own personality, I feel, Simon. When it works, it really, really works, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I've got absolutely nothing against breaking the fourth wall at all. I think it works very, very well if it's used selectively. Lovejoy, I think, is one of the classic examples of where it just works brilliantly. That's part of the appeal of that show. It's difficult, I think, to make it. It's harder to make it work in a drama series where you're only throwing it in occasionally. The whole thing about these series that you've got up here is that they used it as part of the tools of their tool, one of the tools in their toolbox. It's part of the nature of the show. It's part of the fabric of the show. I think it gets a lot harder to justify when you just throw them in occasionally, because they just suddenly feel awkward. They feel they're confusing to the audience. So you've got to be very, very careful, I feel, breaking the fourth wall if it's something that you don't do regularly, is my feeling on it.
When it comes to the shows that we're looking at now, I mean, throughout the decades, these are shows that, various lengths, like some last 30 minutes, some a full hour. But I think they're all sold on the personality and that connection between the viewer and the central character. It's as if they're leading you through their world, their family life or their job or their kind of secret life in the case of a secret agent. It's like you've been let in on a little secret with them. That's what it is. So it's something that they usually sort of top and tail shows with. Obviously, there was Moonlighting as well. It was a major part of the appeal of that show. They probably broke the fourth wall more than any other show, and when they did, it was very, very elaborate, and there's entire movies are unimaginable without moments like that. So to break the fourth wall is to include a sort of a moment of self-awareness, I suppose you could say, from either an actor or actors, where they acknowledge the fact that they're in a movie or a comic book or a TV show and relate that, express that to the audience. So it's the screen itself that separates us from them. That is that fourth wall, isn't it, Simon?
Yeah, absolutely. It is the fourth wall. And as I say, it just in certain contexts, it does work beautifully. One of my favourite films of all time is Orlando with Tilda Swinton. And that breaks the fourth wall right the way through the film. So if you set your stall out and you're going to break the fourth wall, it's absolutely fine. It's doable. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a really good dramatic choice in certain situations. But as I say, you use it very carefully. You've got to know what you're doing when you break the fourth wall. You've got to be a true professional to know the grammar of film, television, and to know what you're doing. And you've got to do it with confidence and conviction. And my personal feeling is, in the recent season of Doctor Who, it wasn't. It was cheap, it was gimmicky, it was throwaway, and it destroyed the illusion. But there we go.
Because the first films that broke the fourth wall were like 100 years ago. It's been part of movies for almost as long as they've been movies, Matt. But it's a very theatrical thing to do. It's the equivalent of, I think, an actor in a stage play suddenly turning around to the audience or picking out a member of the audience and saying, "Oh, wasn't it a nightmare on the car park earlier on?" Or to complain about the price of the refreshments in the shop in the interval. It's that kind of thing too. When it comes to Doctor Who, though, looking back through the annals, the 60 years of Doctor Who, its most famous example of breaking the fourth wall is probably the first one in the first ever Doctor Who kind of Christmas special, The Feast of Stephen. The Doctor turns to the camera itself to wish all of the viewers a Merry Christmas, something which his two companions seem completely oblivious of. Apparently, this wasn't an unscripted ad lib after all, but that was a popular myth within Doctor Who circles for a time, Matt. It's the kind of thing that I think the fans want to believe that they would let that happen. It wasn't in Terry Nation's script, having said that, but it was other accounts say that they did run that past the production team rather than that just being something that Hartnell fancied doing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Christmas in Doctor Who. As far as I feel it dates it just a bit too much.
Any Christmas at all? Like marking Christmas,
Well,
do you mean?
yeah, I mean, you can watch any Christmas shows at all, really. I just feel I don't think that they really need to be in any TV series because I mean, I could be watching. I remember being really, really annoyed when I'd be watching something on TV when I was a kid, and it'd be March, April, May, or something like that, and then there's a Christmas episode or a Halloween episode or something like that. And they'd just make a huge thing, and it just took me out of it. But you know, I mean, if I have no problems with fourth wall breaking, but the thing is, I mean, as an adult, I find them a little bit more grating than when I was a kid. When I was a kid, it was great to have, you know, like even things like Sesame Street, where they used to look at the camera and they're talking to you as a child, you know, and that sort of thing. This one, because it's more adult, you know, I just feel that, you know, it sort of puts you out of it, really. I mean, I'm sort of glad that they never did it with Game of Thrones or any shows like that. It just would not have worked.
In the case of the Feast of Stephen, I think a lot of it is because it was still, in relative terms, TV was still fairly young. There was a certain novelty to it.
Well, you've got to remember too,
the BBC wasn't on.
They?
Yeah, it was, and they were. And also, BBC One didn't broadcast all day, every day, the way it does now. It was, the TVs were smaller. They were seen as extra members of the family. Obviously, the screens were far, far smaller. So I do think it was a very different time. But in 2024, surprisingly, breaking the fourth wall has made a pretty big comeback. So Anita Dobson's enigmatic Mrs. Flood, moments featuring this character, bookended the most recent season of Doctor Who. And as Simon was saying, I mean, this is where you're sort of pushing it to maximum tolerance points, because when an actress in this case, stares down the camera and says something that's of inexplicable, if she's not addressing us watching it, when she says, "Have you not seen a TARDIS before?" and then sort of winks, then who is it? Who is it for? They're not talking to themselves. It's hard to sort of hand wave and say, "Oh well, it's just a bit of fun," and does it really matter? But to plenty of us, it does. It does matter, doesn't it, Jack? Anita made a big impact in this moment on Christmas Day just gone, and sure enough, at the end of the season, went there again. After the plots have been resolved, such as they were in Empire of Death, the scene shifts to the rooftop there, whilst the Ross Ruby's family are getting to know one another around the table, and the character again comes into the foreground and addresses the public and says, "Oh, the Doctor, he's in for a really hard time when we next see him," and there's another wink and another nudge. But is this working, Jack? Do you think it's one thing to do it once at Christmas Day, but this is going to be a regular thing? Is it working?
Well, when it comes to Mrs. Flood and the fourth wall breaking, I was under the impression before all this stuff come out that we were going to get an explanation. At some point down the road. Obviously, this era and stuff being explained, there's a bit of a troublesome relationship, clearly. And yeah, I would have been fine, you know, if it's like similar to, similar to Deadpool, like her character, because of her abilities or whatever, that's who she is. Okay, cool. I'll accept that, even if it's not a deep explanation. At least we know. But now we're getting told, alongside all the other stuff we haven't had explained to us, that that's not going to likely happen. It's just like, well, what's the point? Because every time that happens now, it's just going to take us away, because we're like, wait, why is she trying to talk to us? It just doesn't make any sense.
You're quite right. Yeah, he has spoken. Russell T Davies. Just when we thought we got a bit of a break from Russell's brand of nonsense and hyperbole, he's back this very week. So SFX magazine for July has published an interview with Russell T Davies in this issue. Fabulous golden sort of cover there. Looks a bit like a pint of lager I think, doesn't it, Matt, with with the golden body and the head there? But don't mention head anywhere near shooting. But yeah, so this is the latest edition of SFX magazine. So it's been published after the season finale and that second encounter with Mrs. Flood, and they have explicitly asked Russell T Davies about this very matter, and he says that hasn't been explained, and it might never be, frankly. It's very interesting within the Doctor Who offices. We know exactly why that happens, and yet I'm showing no sign of putting that on screen. What a bizarre thing to say, Charlotte. Over to you.
Why should we care then? If you're not going to explain it, if in your offices, Russell, you know what she is, but you're not going to show it on screen, then why should I care? After what you've done in the first series of hyping up an arc and then basically giving the most boring answer and thinking that's brilliant and special and amazing. And my problem is with the Mrs. Flood stuff, it's like she's got two characters in one here, and there's two personalities in one. In some scenes, she's the neighbour that's a bit that likes to stick her oar in. She's the neighbour that's sort of like what Russell used to do with like somebody we know would be like the elderly neighbour who's a bit likes to get involved, but she's no harm. She just likes to sort of be part of the scene now and again. And she plays it like that, and she plays it quite well, Anita, like that. And then in another scene, she's this a bit scary, like there's something otherworldly about her. She knows what's going to happen in the future.
There's a quiet malevolence about the character. Yeah. Anita Dobson's a fantastic actress, so yeah, write her a good part, write her memorable lines. Yeah, but if it's going nowhere, Charlotte.
But here's my point. There's no connection between those two characters almost she's playing at this point. I either cast her and have her as the neighbour, who's like the part of the familial scene we know to do with Ruby's family. I also did in the first time, like there was characters that weren't part of the Doctor Who sort of adventure. They were just there to do Rose's home life. Jackie, brilliant character. I adore Jackie, but she was a mum. She was Rose's mum. That was her point in the plot, and she did it very well. But like I said, but then at no point did she suddenly turn around and then get all like, "Mwahaha, I know more that what's going on here, audience." It's like I said, it's like pick something, Russell. Don't do two things with one character.
And the thing is, I would go further than that, Charlotte. Yet again, that statement from Davies, I'm sorry, I can't call him Russell. It's far too chummy. It's just sheer arrogance again. It's just nothing other than arrogance and smugness. He's just so proud that he wants to show off that they're talking about in the office. We all know who it is, but we're not going to tell you that. What is it? What is it, Davies? Why do you want to alienate your audience so much? Why are you so obsessed with alienating your audience and making them feel excluded? I could have sworn that one of Davies's big things was inclusivity. I thought that's what he preached. Yet this is exclusivity. You're not welcome in our little world. We know what it is in the Doctor Who office. We know who Mrs. Flood is, but don't expect us to share it with you because you're simply not worthy of knowing what Mrs. Flood is. It's arrogant. It's horrible. It's unpleasant. It shows a very, very unpleasant side to his personality.
I mean, it's elitist. I mean, obviously Russell is a professional, and the people, everybody who works on the show, one would hope they're all professionals, Matt. But there's this idea that we're not all in it together. That it's not as communal as once it was. In the past, for example, he used to call readers of his Doctor Who magazine column, like dear reader and faithful viewer. Russell uses or used expressions like that, and here he is now, kind of flicking us the bird and saying, I can't be asked telling you guys this is pretty much none of your business. He went on to clarify. There is actually a reason for it that was in a very early draft of the Star Beast, but I see no need. But I see no need to explain it whatsoever. He goes on to say, my sister watches that and she doesn't blink. She actually doesn't blink when a character turns to the camera and gives them a wink. I'm sure that's true. And when it comes to normies, yes, he's got a point. But it hardly disqualifies the perfectly reasonable appetite for the actual audience, Simon. Who, okay, if they don't obsess about this, then certainly invest in it. That you want it to have some sort of internal logic.
Well, of course, everything's got to have an internal logic. It doesn't have to fit in with the wider world, but it does have to have its own internal logic. Really, so basically, he's using his sister as the touchstone. She is representative of the entire audience, so she's okay with it. Doesn't matter. I don't need to. Yet again, it's smugness, it's arrogance. I don't need to care about what anybody else thinks. But to me, it goes further. To me, it shows what I believe is very poor judgment on the part of a writer, because it goes on with what Charlotte's saying. Why bother even putting something in a script if you're not going to explain it? Yeah. Robert Holmes used to say, Terence Dix used to say, there should be no wasted lines. There should be no flack in a script, no looseness in a script. Use every line and make every line count. So what we're basically going to do is just throw character traits in, throw characters in, lines in, whatever. We don't need to explain them. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares about it. Why are you wasting time, Russell T Davies, with wasting the audience's time with? I wonder, Simon, is
he that bored that he has to amuse himself? Not with the privilege of writing, of steering this ship, but of pulling little stunts like this, Jack. Am I taking this too seriously? Babette Bombshell here in the live chat on YouTube describes them as nothing burgers. Jack, what's your take?
Well, I mean, it's kind of what I said before. Like, I feel like with this era so far, we're getting shown a lot of things, and we're getting told how fancy things are and how excited we should be. But we're not. It's like we're getting told that we're gonna get dinner. It's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be great. But then we don't get anything, or we get served with dust.
But Russell T Davies knows what you are going to have for dinner. He's just not going to give it to you.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's supposed to make you feel better, Jack.
Oh, apparently so. Yeah. But that's the thing. Like, I know we've had it in Doctor Who in the past. Like, there's episodes like Sleep No More or Midnight where we don't necessarily get the full story, which it works every now and again because we're open to speculation, and that's fine. But when we get in so many episodes in a row and a whole season or a whole era so far, where we're now how many episodes in now? Like 10 or 11 episodes in this new era, and
12 or 13, yeah, quite a few.
Yeah, we're not really getting anything explained so far. There's been so many things set up, and there's been no explanations. And the only explanation we've had is the identity of Ruby's mom, and that was just pure clickbait. And that, what Russell even said, that was down to social media engagement. And I'm like, that's not a story. You're just doing that for the clicks.
Hunting for a viral moment, Jack. Trying to manufacture viral moments and things with a sort of mimetic quality that will go around the world in the blink of an eye. I can see why that would be appealing. But the reason why those things work, though, Charlotte, is more often than not, it's by accident.
Yeah, and the thing is that they're not long-lasting. Stuff can be viral for a day or a week or even longer for a push, but it dies out. That's the nature of viral ideas, clips, concepts. They're not meant to last because they're meant to just amuse you or to get you thinking for a bit, and then you go on to the next thing. Whereas actually finely crafted stories and characters that we care about and plots which actually have hints that now then have the big reveal, they stay with you. That's what Russell did back in 2005. He did it with Bad Wolf. He did it with Jack. He did it with quite a few things that he would build it up and then reveal it. Look at what's one of the most... He bangs on about fantasy and how big fantasy is at the moment. I'm watching House of the Dragon, and watching that show after watching Russell's writing, it shows it up because in House of the Dragon, if they put something in an episode, it pays off.
It pays off.
An episode later, or even a couple of episodes later, you go, "Oh, that's why that was written."
Don't tell me you expect discipline and professionalism, Charlotte. Heavens above. Darren in the live chat says this
naturally got people for that as soon as that first season and now the second season. It's kept momentum. It's kept interest. It's kept talking because of that. Russell doing a woman talking to you at the end and not telling you who she isn't going to keep people coming back to the show. And that's what you need to be thinking
no,
more
it's
about
nowhere
now.
near enough. It doesn't stay in your mind for like. You just think, wasn't it strange that thing happened at Christmas? And oh, it's happened again. Darren in the live chat says this is tired and overdone mystery box trope is no substitute for proper storytelling. If Russell T Davies can't be bothered, then neither can I. And there are several comments like that in the live chat, Simon.
That's absolutely spot on. I totally agree. It's lazy writing. Instead of actually writing good, decent stories and good dialogue, we're just going to put it all into mystery boxes and assume that the audience is going to be engaged enough by that, and having these carrots dangled in front of our noses that they're then snatched away with no explanation. As Matthew Pounder says in the chat, we still don't know the explanation of what Ruby whispered in 73 yards. No, it's because Davies doesn't clearly know.
Yeah, we'll come on.
Trumpets.
I've got a quote about that as well. There's something concerning that too. He did go on to clarify here about the fourth wall. He said, I mean, you would if it was Pride and Prejudice. That would be odd. No, you wouldn't, sorry. I mean, you wouldn't if it was Pride and Prejudice. That would be odd. But there's something showy about Doctor Who. There's something proscenium, arch about it. Now, that's a theatrical term, as I understand. Proscenium.
Basically, the proscenium arch is the frame around the stage. So as you're sitting in the audience looking at the stage, the proscenium arch is the three bits, in other words, the two uprights and the bit across the top.
Gotcha.
It's the frame that sits around the. So what he's basically saying there is that Doctor Who is a little bit theatrical. It's got a sense of being on a stage about it, and of course that's where the whole fourth wall thing comes from. Because back with theatre, of course, you address pretty much every line to the audience in some way.
There could be some truth to this up to a point, Simon, because Doctor Who was a very, very old show, a very old concept. Yeah. Back then, when it was first screening, they considered it to be televised theatre, all television drama, didn't they?
Absolutely.
Or certainly the majority of it. I think apart from the stuff that ITC was making, which was kind of they were like mini movies, weren't they?
They were like films, but everything else, all TV of the sort of really up until the sort of late 70s was very much sort of theatre, just films on television cameras. And so I would actually agree with Davies. This is remarkable. I would actually agree with Davies that there is something arch about Doctor Who. There is something arch about Doctor Who, but I think it's completely misunderstanding Doctor Who when you say there's something showy about Doctor Who. I disagree. Davies's stuff is showy. Doctor Who itself is not showy, and that's why I don't feel that the proscenium arch approach, that the breaking of the fourth wall works. You look at certainly classic Doctor Who, or even David Tennant and Matt Smith stuff, Peter Capaldi. Would it have worked breaking the fourth wall? Was that showy? Was that proscenium archy? No,
well, there are examples back in the classic show, Simon, which I think tested that a little. But for example, that wink where the 15th Doctor winks to the camera there in the Devil's Core, that grated on a lot of people. It was just a split second, and that could be excused. People wink to themselves all the time, particularly people who are a bit eccentric. I do stuff like that. And back in the classic show, there were moments such as this sequence in the Aztecs, for example, where Totoxel seems to stare down the camera and kind of address the public. Because what he's saying, though, has context within the story, it doesn't really count because he's looking at something or someone. And the moment with Captain Rack in Enlightenment is perhaps a little harder to explain. That is very, very arch. But then again, within the context of the story itself, I'll probably excuse that. Tom Baker, there was a moment where Tom Baker, which story was this? Was this the Invasion of Time, Simon? What was going on here?
Invasion of Time, and this is the infamous one that everybody always brings up because it is quite on the nose. He just he looks straight down the camera and speaks pretty much to the audience, but he could be speaking to himself. But nonetheless, there's no getting away from it. He is breaking the fourth wall at this point. And I have to be honest, I personally don't like it.
I don't either.
I would prefer it wasn't there. I'm not going to be hypocritical and defend this and then condemn modern breaking of the fourth wall. No, I don't like it. And then, of course, there's the famous bit in the Caves of Androzani with what's his name looking straight down the lens.
Oh, do you mean Colin Baker?
No. Sorry, the character.
Morgus, played by
Morgus. Thank you, Trow Morgan.
What was his name? John Normington's character.
John Normington's character. He does several instances of looking down the character. I mean, actually, it's turned out that's been admitted that it was a mistake. Graham Harper has admitted that John Normington just basically misunderstood an instruction of his and ended up looking straight down the lens. So it was a mistake. Does it work? That one I feel
doesn't it? Because it's a Shakespearean kind of character and a very Shakespearean performance.
Spot on. So this is what I say. You can do it, but you've got to think very, very carefully about what you're doing. And just to take the approach, as Davies is, of it's an arch show, it's a proscenium arch show, so we can break the fourth wall, we can do that. That strikes of sort of lackadaisicalness to me, that of just laziness. We can do it, and so we will do it, rather than should we do it? And that there's a big difference there to me.
Moments like the ones that we're seeing on screen at the moment, they're matching fleeting moments of heightened drama for whatever reason. Again, I think they take it so far and then pull back. There's been lots of examples in the new series. In fact, Peter Capaldi's Doctor did it quite a lot, gave an entire speech, didn't he, about the bootstrap paradox, if you remember that. So, but does this actually count as breaking the fourth wall? I think it's all in character.
I think that's the difference. For me, fourth wall is when whoever's the actor isn't being that character for a second, because they are addressing, look, I'm doing this in the scene. Isn't it funny? Or isn't it like with Deadpool? No, Deadpool's always had this. So, but the idea with Deadpool is he knows he's a comic book character, so much of the writing is basically critiquing the art form he's in. That's the whole point of Deadpool. So it's in character for him. When the Doctor does this with Capaldi, he's explaining a concept which is then going to be relevant in the episode. It's sort of giving you something you need for the episode almost. And the Doctor has been established to talk to himself for ages now. We know in the TARDIS, it's been sort of talked about. He does this with Matt when he's regenerating. When he says, "I'll always remember when I was the Doctor," that has got a bit of a ring of Matt talking, but that's a regeneration speech. That's a Doctor. That's the actor. If there's any time you're going to let an actor sort of not be their character for a second, it's going to be when they're going and that sort of heightened emotion. Whereas for me, I agree with what Simon's saying. The way Russell's doing it, it's not in really relevant plot moments. It's not when the Doctor in character would do that. It's just him sort of lazily and cheaply having a gimmick. That's what it feels like to me. Whereas all those instances in New Who more, it actually served a purpose, or it suited the character in that moment to do it.
Matthew Pounder says that fourth wall breaking is mainly used in comedy and he's treating the series as a joke. I'm not sure if I'd go quite that far, Matt, but I think he's treating the audience with a great deal of disdain.
Contempt. Absolute contempt. How bizarre. How bizarre to say, oh, well, we're doing all this, but don't expect anything at the end. It's just... for me, Doctor Who should be the main character, I think, should be able to break the fourth wall occasionally, but I think I go back to when I used to read comics, and one of my favorite comics was She-Hulk. And in She-Hulk,
I love She-Hulk as well.
She had a sixth sense of, she knew she was in a comic book, but all the other characters around her didn't know that they were in a comic book. So when she was talking to the reader, they were like, the characters were going, what the hell is she doing? You know, they just never ever, they just weren't aware of it. And I feel Doctor Who should be that way. You don't have characters that are just going to be talking to camera and then just say, you know, oh, we're not going to explain it. This is the whole point. This seems to be the Russell of not being able to explain anything because he's just too much up his own ass, and it's got to stop. It's just I'm so sad now because Doctor Who used to be so fantastic, and it just told a story. Now
I think if there was an incarnation of the character that worked with the fourth wall breaking, or at least a kind of an awareness, a soft awareness of the fact that he was in a TV show, or that he's kind of speaking out loud to something or someone within his world, was the Peter Capaldi Doctor. That you know kind why? Of professorial angle.
Well, he was
when we
a
first
teacher.
Exactly.
But you know why, Dan? I honestly think that's because Peter Capaldi, I've always said, he's arguably the finest actor to ever actually play the part of the Doctor. I mean, the best, the most accomplished actor, I think, is probably Peter Capaldi. That's why somebody like Capaldi...
Even they agree.
Trust me, these are all good actors. Please don't get me wrong. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not criticising any of the actors as being damned good actors. Most, 90% of the people who've played the Doctor are damned good actors. But Peter Capaldi is the most accomplished. He's a Shakespearean actor at the end of the day, so he can do this stuff. It's bread and butter to him. I'm sorry, but with the greatest of respects, I think it's arguable that Ncuti Gatwa is possibly not quite as fine as an actor as Peter Capaldi, and so he might struggle to get away with it slightly more.
I think you're being very kind there, Simon. Peter Harrington says they are a wink and a sigh, a fleeting moment in time, but now we get bleeding sentences. Rose Kirby says, I like the fourth wall when people turn to the camera and speak to me, and to us and to everyone, it's like they're telling the story. And I think that's why it kind of works with Peter Capaldi, because he doesn't literally sort of say, okay, this is what's going to happen this week, the way that Lovejoy would. But he gives you information, as you said, Charlotte, that does come to play in the story later on. It's not the Muppet Christmas Carol where Gonzo is telling you, narrating the story, interceding all the way through. I mean, the fact of the matter is Doctor Who a cheeky show? Is it idiosyncratic? Yes, it is. Yeah. And it has got a format that other shows haven't. And we boast about that when it suits us. It's got this wide appeal to tastes as well as age groups. But the drawback to this, to that broad universal appeal, something for everyone, is that it's open. That playfulness can be misread, mishandled, and misused. And when it does, it goes down hard and in flames, and the moments that people don't forget. More to the point, though, it does give an excuse for any old hack to lean on that and to get out of a tricky hole that they've dug for themselves. Or in the case of Russell T Davies, somebody who maybe has found out that he hasn't got as many tools left in the bag as he thought, and so he's amusing himself in the moment to just get the next script out, to get the thing made. That does seem to, and I don't say that lightly, I'm a big Russell T Davies fan, but that does seem to be who Russell T Davies is in 2024, and that makes me feel quite hollow inside as well.
He's not doing what's good for the show. No. That's the difference. In 2005...
Well, to him, he thinks he's doing it.
Oh, no, even I think there's this... I think beneath all the ego, I think Russell knows he's doing stuff because it pleases him, because it's stuff he's always wanted in Doctor Who. And it's also because I know he's talked about that the Schalke Doctor and why that got included, purely because one of his mates wrote something to do with that Doctor. So we put it in.
Yeah, he wanted to drop a gift to Paul Cornell.
So you're putting your friend before the show, Russell, because
it's
I know that moment,
isn't it? Yeah, it's self-indulgence.
But it's the idea then that I know people, for example, I'm not extended universe person. People know me, so I saw that face and I was like, oh, I don't know who that is. It was only afterwards I saw who it was and why they were there. But that's I know that really got on some people's nerves in the fandom. That really got on people's nerves.
It did mine.
But that's my. But then, and then the more you think about that, you think
It's so
he's
empty.
messing
That's the
with-
problem. It is completely empty and barren of all possibilities. It also completely goes against things that Russell T Davies has said in the past several times over.
But like I said, if you think about it more, it's a canon thing. Once again, he's been really fast and loose with the canon by putting a doctor up there because of his friend.
Yeah.
And it's like,
But-
that's when you think, Russell, where are your priorities? That's the thing
But it's
that at the moment, I'm now the most
Well, you
questioning
you
about
talk
this
about
guy.
priorities. If you think that's bad, we've been talking about this amongst ourselves. You may think that is bad, but he's also in the same interview, Simon. He's talked a little about the whole Mavity thing, if you remember.
Dear Lord, I'm
So this is
bored with the
Mavity.
whole
I wouldn't say
thing.
this has been driving us mad, but we've had people asking about this in the live chat as well. Aidan McGee is just one of them. You should mention his Mavity thing. So yes, in the pre-credits scene for that middle 60th anniversary special, Wild Blue Yonder, the Doctor and Donna accidentally altered history, didn't they, Jack? And many of us assumed that this was going somewhere as well. I mean, who would irritate potentially millions of people with something that's so particular and so on the nose? And let's be honest, something that's a little bit juvenile, unless it was going somewhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, they interfere with
100%.
Isaac Newton.
A good
When
writer, Dan, would know that, you've got to pay this one off. A good writer would know that.
So obviously, Sir Isaac Newton, he discovered gravity, didn't he? Amongst many other things, a very learned man. And through a simple moment in this, the Doctor uses the word... what does the Doctor... I can't even remember how it comes about now, but Isaac Newton is seen to come to form the word Mavity rather than gravity as a result of the interference of the Doctor and Donna. Am I remembering that right?
I think didn't Sir Isaac Newton, who let's not forget was culturally appropriated as an Asian.
Oh yeah.
person. Let's not forget that, Russell T Davies. That is cultural appropriation. In case you.
Oh yeah, So he had a big problem with Sutekh being Egyptian, but no problem at all with Sir Isaac Newton all of a sudden being Indian.
When he was white, exactly.
What a
But
cock!
Let's not forget that. That's in my book, cultural appropriation, Mr. Davies. But yeah, I think as I recall, didn't Sir Isaac Newton, who by the way Russell was white, in case you're wondering, didn't he just mishear?
Yeah, I think it was a mishearing.
Oh, it mishears it, does, like I say.
I think so. I've lost interest in
So
that.
bloody infantile.
Yeah. And so you would expect.
We've wondered about this. We've all wondered about this. We've spoken about it on this show several times, Simon.
Yeah. Not least because we're bored by it. We're bored of the constant mentions of Mavity for no reason.
Well, thank heaven that SFX magazine have got a good relationship with Russell T Davies, it seems. They've asked him about that as well. And he said, well, it's permanent. It's absolutely permanent. That's what gravity is. And his reasoning is, it's funny. It's very funny and it makes me laugh. And it's staying. And then he bangs the desk. It's enormously funny. And the comic strip people are having to do it. All the novel people are having to do it. How funny is that?
God, this man is off the scale, egomaniac. He is
what a prick.
He's a dictatorial idiot, isn't he? Let's be honest. Wow.
I wonder, Matt, what do you think the novelists and the comic book writers think about Mavity, and what do you think they'll have to say about this? Do you think it's funny for them?
Oh, I think they'll have no problem doing it because they've got their dream job of writing for a show that that they've loved since they were in childhood most of the time. So they'll be just yes men. So of course they'll be happy to do it. Oh yeah, no worries. I can see it. They're just like they say, no one can tell him no, and this has been the issue.
He
throughout.
was the one, Matt. He was the one, Matt, who said he surrounded himself. But what did he say? That he couldn't have people who would disagree with him.
No,
would say no to him. So
I'm sorry, but those comments, Russell, it sounds like it's funny because you're forcing it on other people, not because it's actually funny. Because you've made up a word, and now you can make everybody else have to use it.
He sort of reminds me...
It's power mad, isn't it? It's power mad.
He sort of reminds me of Dr. Evil, where he laughs, and if people don't laugh with him, he kills them. It's
Well, yeah.
it's just
I
you
was
know.
going to say, I'm sorry, reading those comments, that's why I sort of said wow when I saw them. I think, yeah, it shows actually, Russell, you've become a real nasty character. It's because of that idea of forcing, and he's making it very clear that he's forcing.
It's not nice, is it? Let's be honest. It's not nice.
I dare say
that you would want to invite around for tea.
Well, I wouldn't. I can't say I'd want to work with him. I'm sure that he said this in a very sort of jovial way. But then again, he's at the top of the tree, Jack. I think if I was working under this, I don't know. I mean, I just find this all so bloody insubstantial. I mean, are we taking this too seriously, Jack? What do you think about the Mavity thing?
I mean, I was hoping that it would have gone somewhere because that's the way it was set up, just like, well, a lot of things in this era so far. And, there's always fan speculation when these plot threads are set up because people are thinking, oh, how's this going to be paid off? I mean, there was a lot of people thinking this might mean, oh, the meddling monk is back. But no, there's nothing. Nothing.
You have
You
got
know what I'd
Mavity,
love?
so come on, Jack.
The greedy boy.
I'd love to see the video to this interview. Only for
So would I.
To see because they're just saying, oh, he bangs a desk and and he says, oh, it's enormously funny. But I want to see his face when he's actually banging
Matt,
that desk.
I don't need to see his face because I read that. Well, as Dan reads that, I know exactly how he would be saying that. I can hear the words coming out. I really question his sense of humor on this. If he genuinely thinks that is so funny, I really doubt how this person can be writing a primetime BBC show if he just thinks Mavity is funny. He's about the only person in the world, unless of course his sister. Maybe his sister found it funny as well. So perhaps that's his touchstone, as I say, because nobody else is finding it funny.
Well, he surrounds himself with people who will all agree. They're people that are working under him, so it's understandable that they would. He did go on. He did elaborate just a little.
Oh, is he? No, she hasn't gone on anymore.
He said, I think people are kind of, a bit like Jack here. This one's for you, Jack. I think people are kind of looking for a plot in it. I can't imagine what that would be. What on earth would that be?
Well, it might be an idea, Mr. Davies. It might actually
Says
be I think you'll
the
regret
most
it.
powerful writer in British television, Simon.
It's depressing, isn't it? He's actually.
If he doesn't know,
depressing.
If he doesn't know, and if he can't work out why people could be looking for a plot in something that's been mentioned over and over again, I don't know what to say.
but also, Russell, people are doing this because this is the exact trick you pulled in your first series with Bad Wolf.
Exactly.
You kept mentioning
he created this.
You created your series arc around 2 words.
Yeah.
So of course, why would we not see if we see the same pattern again? You said you had the quote up about the Doctor saying, "I love humans. They always look for patterns." It's what we do, and it's what you've done before. So why then are you expecting us to forget? This is the other thing that I find weird with Russell at the moment. It's like he wants us to treat him like he didn't, in some ways, he wants us to treat him like he's a brand new writer that's never written for the show before. And then in other ways, he wants us to absolutely put him on a pedestal because of what he did in 2005. It's like, no, we've got past work from you. We've got those episodes that were, some of them were really well written, really good plots and characters. So you could do it then. And now it's like, if we want a plot, that's too much. If we want an answer, that's too much.
Yeah, but you got a word. Come on, Shaw. You got Mavity, please.
Yeah.
Well, he seems perplexed by the fact that the audience, that the viewers, whether they're people like us who are obsessed with this stuff, or whether it's people who just watch it every week, or people who catch it now and again, he seems perplexed by the idea that people may want it to make sense or expect it to connect. As you say, Charlotte, he didn't pioneer this stuff internationally, but you could probably say Joss Whedon did, but Russell did in this country to the mainstream audience. And now he's wondering why people want it. That's one thing, but it's another to expect the audience, when it suits him, to actually start doing some of the work. So he finished by saying, in the end, it's immensely creative. That's what's brilliant.
What?
All of us, he says, all of us for years have juggled with the notion of a fictional series that exists between Patrick Troughton and John Pertwee. Between Patrick Troughton and John Pertwee appearing. What do they call it? Season 6B. There's a great fan superstition. And so he's sort of saying, well, I'm doing this deliberately, just like the viral moments and the mimetic thing with Mrs. Flood talking to the camera, which he's doing deliberately. What he's saying here is that he's kind of either doing it deliberately or writing this material in a kind of slapdash way, expecting that the audience, who on one hand he's taking the piss out of and not considering at all, but when it suits him, we're expected to pick up the slack and fill in the gaps of this, or maybe the Big Finish writers. I don't know, but it's not his problem. That's how he sees it. Not his problem.
But presumably is he describing himself there as immensely creative, and what he's doing is immensely creative? So Mavity is immensely creative. Is it? Mrs. Flood just looking at the camera is immensely creative.
He seems to think he's being. He seems to think he's being generous, Matt, and giving this us to play with, either in our heads or creatively to write something, to draw something.
Dan, I'm just glad I'm out. I could care less now. I really could care less. I feel like I've wasted 8 weeks of my life with that horrible, absolute crap series that we've just had to endure. And I knew it was going to be crap. I didn't want it to be, but I was watching it, and 4 episodes in, I just knew that this was going to fall on its ass major, and it has. Not just in the ratings. I mean, with everybody that used to shill for this show, they can't even defend it. It's so bad. This series is awful.
Well, certainly the editorial mindset behind it is not what I would expect of a man like Russell T Davies at a company like Bad Wolf, which up until now has had largely impeccable quality. You know, the rise of Bad Wolf, the fact that they were acquired by Sony, I think that said it all, Jack. They were really going somewhere. And I always said, you know, it didn't really matter. It didn't really matter how many successes they'd had before. And some of their other shows are very, very successful. If they screw up Doctor Who this long term, I'm not just talking about this year, because you know they could write this. This could be teething troubles. If they screw up Doctor Who, this will damage Bad Wolf, their credibility, and it will probably damage Russell's career and the way that we feel about him. I mean, I find this really difficult reading, Jack, to see this interview.
Yeah, it is. It is a hard read, because you know we find out like a lot of the stuff that you know we're told to get invested in, to get excited for. And then it's just like, well, it's for nothing, really, at the end of the day. Like, and it does make us feel like we're nothing to these people, and it's a shame, because as someone, like someone who's trying to get excited and stuff, it does make me very nervous for the future of the show, because Doctor Who, it's always had its ups and downs, but I do feel like we're just getting half-assed ideas now, instead of actual proper stories. And with Mavity, I wouldn't mind if we had to wait, 2 or 3 years and it was a long payoff or whatever. Because as I said earlier, there's a lot of things that have been set up so early on. But getting told that no, we're not going to have anything, it's just, again, it's just a lot of BS. To be honest, there
are people in the live chat on YouTube here who are keeping the faith. I'm happy to say, Jack. I mean, this is actually what fans do, isn't it? We sort of hold the course with this stuff mostly because Puppet says Mavity will be paid off. I reckon. I'd like to think that professionalism, Simon, kicks in somewhere in the next 2 or 3 years, just as Jack said.
I'm honestly beginning to think that that's not going to happen. I think RTD is now really believing his own hype. He's believing all the hype that everybody else has said about him, and it just feels like it has gone to his head somewhat. If he's so focused on a word such as Mavity, or on how chuffed he is that they're talking about it in the office about the secret, the truth behind Mrs. Flood, but we're not going to tell you. If that's what's getting him excited, as opposed to writing really good scripts that bring in more than 4 million viewers,
yeah.
Where can you go with that? The series is lost. I mean, I just pray. Lord Thoth has commented in the chat to say that Lord Thoth I called it years ago, that it was the worst thing to happen to the show. I really didn't want to be right. This gives me no pleasure at all. But I think it's been proven that it was correct. I yearn for the day that Russell T Davies walks away from the show. I pray it's sooner rather than later. I will not be watching another show that Russell T Davies puts out under the name Doctor Who. I'm done, as are millions of people.
And that's what I don't understand, because like we've all said, clearly Russell's ego is now massive. He believes his own hype. So I'm trying to think in that mindset for himself now. This is going to damage his career. I'm sorry. That first series, I think he's damaged his career when it comes to
how can it not?
writing. Yeah, exactly. How can it not? And if the attitude's the same in these interviews, obviously we don't know exactly when he sat down to do these interviews. So maybe he's changed of late because of reality's finally hit him in the face hard enough. But we'll see. But it's like, even for his own ego and his own sort of, I need to keep myself in the industry and in the game and top of that list sort of thing. To come across so flippant about core writing tenets like plot, payoff, sort of putting something in an episode and then scoffing that people want a payoff for it. Those are core writing things.
Yeah.
And you're telling me people in the industry aren't going to look at that, who aren't part of his little bubble, and actually go, why would I hire him if he's talking like this?
And this is
why would I trust him?
Pension him off.
And this is why it appears his arrogance has taken over completely, and his ego. It seems that's how it appears.
Yeah, but
Psychic Beats says, I think Russell is saying all of this to sway attention. I think all those plots will pay off, and he's lying. A few weeks ago, he lied about the whole Susan Twist thing, saying that they ran out of other actors and he just employed Susan Twist. He did say something about it was a coincidence that she was called Susan. It was a coincidence that her surname is Twist, and all those things. He knows exactly what he's doing. I don't know. I mean, how does Susan Twist feel about that? I mean, she must be happy with it. I mean, she's obviously, I hope she took the money and bought something nice, all that kind of thing. She seems like a really nice woman. But I think I'd be offended. I think Caroline Ford has every right to feel offended.
That's what I'm talking about. He's making himself look like an idiot.
Like I've always said, he opens his mouth and rubbish comes out, and it's true.
But he used to hide it though, Simon. He used to be good at hiding this, and now it's just like unchecked.
Well, don't you miss the days of Chibnall, where he just wouldn't say anything at all?
True.
No, I'm not gonna sort of gaslight myself. Those years were horrible to live through, and they were interminable. They were interminable. Lord Thoth says it ended his career. BinTube there, hello BinTube, says they need to bring someone on who loves this season. Well, Jack and I think Charlotte to some extent enjoyed some of it. Jack and I are very much on the same page. There was more about, personally, just speaking for myself, what was actually on screen, BinTube. I enjoyed it for the most part. I got a lot out of this season, and I would even say that 2 or 3 episodes I thought were fantastic entertainment. But unfortunately, I do have a lot of problems with it as well. Something I always said about this season was it's only 8. They cannot afford. They can put out episodes that maybe don't work for some people and work for others, all that kind of thing. What they couldn't afford was any stinkers. Unfortunately, there were at least 2 absolute stone cold stinkers in this season. That's as upbeat as I can possibly be. I can't say that I love it, but I enjoyed it. Jack, I don't want to speak for you either. Are you sort of where I am?
Yeah, basically, yeah. And I think as well, with the reduced episode count, I think it does highlight not necessarily the problem, but continuing this format of like, okay, new setting, new monster every week. Whereas I feel like if they went down like a more like a serialized tone, maybe tried it out for like a season or something, maybe similar to like Keys to Time or Flux or something. I feel like trial and error. Maybe try it with 8 episodes, and you could have had the build up to Sutekh feel a little bit more natural instead of just feeling rushed.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that would have worked, and it would have given Doctor Who a bit of a breath of fresh air. But instead, you've kind of got Doctor Who now going through what I feel like is an identity crisis. Doctor Who. Well, this era was branded as a fresh start, but this fresh start was during the anniversary specials, and then we've got this new season built off from that, and then we're having a finale where they're watching a very iconic, may I add, classic serial for via an iPad. Like, what's that about? And then we're getting loads of glimpses of TARDISes from older episodes and glimpses of Susan Foreman.
Mel being in this
well.
series.
Yeah. And there's like so many things that just kind of like, okay, right, I thought this was a fresh start, and now suddenly we're getting more nostalgia than bloody Chibnall did in his later years. So it's like,
how's that fresh?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like Doctor Who is capable of doing fresh starts. I mean, we saw it in series 1. We saw it with Moffat's first season as well. There's a good balance between old and new, whilst also acknowledging that Doctor Who can cater to old hardcore fans as well as bringing in new audiences. But I just this season, whilst again I have enjoyed a fair amount of it, it hasn't quite stuck the landing for me, and it does lead me to be very worried for what's to come if they haven't taken any feedback on board, which that interview seems to indicate.
Exactly.
Well, the other thing that's just worth bearing in mind as the sort of final comment to BinTube is that what we're talking about here is not necessarily sort of dislike of the or like of the recent series. It's concern about the words that are coming out of the showrunner. That's really what we're talking about, rather than critiquing the series. And I think it's fair to say that we all feel, whether we liked or disliked the current series, we're just concerned by the stuff that is coming from the top. They're worrying words. That's really, to me, what we're talking about here.
And yeah, we've got to leave it there. The sonic screwdriver will not get Russell T Davies out of this one. I think that's fair to say. Only TLC, hard work, professionalism will, and obviously ideally get more people watching Doctor Who again, turning up when it's on, counting down the weeks and the months, the way that certainly I always used to. I think the general public even joined in a lot with that. Let us know what you think in the live chat there. More of that, and follow it up in the comments as well, if you would be so kind. Time for a break, though, for now. This is our spot where you see golden faces or hear golden voices. They're up on screen. But this time we're rolling back the chronometer to a specific time and place. The reason why, that will become obvious in a moment, right after the always warm and tingly sensation that is the Type 40 Live Doctor Who ad break. See you in a couple of minutes.
So into the oven for a few mins, with just enough time to give your floor a taste of another favourite recipe. Take a dash of Pine Fresh Flash to your floor and watch that dirt and grime lift off fast, giving you a lovely clean floor.
And a nice fresh smell.
Time's up.
And the dish has come up a treat.
And so's your floor. So it's Pine Fresh Flash for CFF. That's clean floors fast.
It's on the Good Time Telegraph. Woodpecker cider's great on draft. A brighter pint, a brighter half. Woodpecker cider. Cuckoo, the light, sharp, but bright.
Cadbury's double-deckers have grown bigger. Much bigger. Now there's room for even more double filling. So when the chewy, satisfying top deck and the crispy, crunchy downstairs get together under that delicious thick Cadbury's milk chocolate, you'll agree a Cadbury's double-decker is big enough to fill up anyone.
Coffee, Joanna?
Yes, please. Oh, mellow birds. I think I'll skip the coffee.
Oh, why's that?
Well, I like mild coffee, but really I prefer a bit more flavour.
Oh, go on, try new mellow birds, just this once.
Choice beans, slowly mellow roasted for more rich, smooth flavour than ever before. That's new mellow birds.
Well, do you like it?
Yes, I do. It's got much more flavour than I expected.
New improved mellow birds, mellow roasted for more flavour.
A new cleaner from Hoover. It's got a huge bag and a big motor. You may be surprised to see how big it is. Or isn't. And the price isn't exactly big either. The new Compact. Big in everything but size and price. From Hoover. Who better?
I don't know about you, but I love that giant Hoover. Okay, so where are we? This is Type 40 Live, covering the past, the present, and the future of Doctor Who, both on and off screen. The fun is still continuing here on the panel, I'm happy to say. So who have we got and what are we doing? Yes, so I'm Dan. This is Charlotte. That's Jack over in the other corner. Here's Simon, and there's Matt there right at the bottom. And we have been discussing all things time and space and time, and giving Russell T Davies a bit of a hard time, but I don't think it's anything that he didn't deserve. Hope you enjoyed the ad break there. That does tie into what's coming next. Cyberpunk, says Jack Thursby. Oh, that's that image that we just looked at there. Hoover, that sucks, says TARDIS Travels. That's very much our level, isn't it? Very much our level. Adrian James says that was his 12th birthday that the ad break was on there back in July 1982. Wow. And Stephen Braddock remembers all those adverts, Simon. Did you remember many of those, Simon?
Yeah, I remembered all. Of course I did. I remembered all of them. Brilliant. Loved them all. Particularly the
Mellow Birds was awful, says Peter Harrington. Mellow Birds. That sounds like a dating app. And Jack Thursby spotted Joanna Lumley in there. He says the only female doctor. Oh.
Yeah.
And right. Patsy, says James A. Fitzpatrick. And Over the Overseer says, I miss the old days before auto-tune. Yeah, I seem to have enjoyed the ads. That's quite handy, really, isn't it? Because, yes, something is coming. Summer is meant to be here. You'd never know it. It's bloody cold. But you can light the fire and warm your cockles right now as we flash back to the season after the season before with Simon Horton and the Doctor Who Diary. Oh.
Yes, indeed. We are having a diary with a difference this week. Because, yes, believe it or not, it is the summer, although most people in the UK would probably not recognise it as the summer because it's more like winter. But it is the summer. And so we are now in absolutely 100% bona fide, gold standard, traditional summer repeat season times. These are the days. You'll remember these, Dan. You have to be of a certain age.
How dare you, sir? Yes, I do.
These are the days when it used to be so exciting because, as a Doctor Who fan, if you were really lucky, and a tradition did set up for this, whereby there would always be the summer repeat season. Now, this started right back in 1968. Well, kind of vaguely did. The very first repeat, we're going to skip over episode 1 of An Unearthly Child, which was repeated the week before episode 2. Just before episode 2. Leaving that one. The first proper repeat was in 1968 for The Evil of the Daleks, which was screened screening this week in 1968. Okay. This was the first ever summer repeat, and it was screened. Well, it actually, because it's such a long story, even with the Daleks, it spanned from June to August 1968. So right here in July, they were right in the middle of the repeat of the Evil of the Daleks in the year that I was born. So I was about 4 months old at this point when they were rescreening the.
Do you remember much about it?
I don't remember it.
You tried though.
Happened, this was rather clever because back in the day, in those days, in the black and white days, the series ran for pretty much getting on for 52 weeks of the year. So at this point in the year, they were coming to sort of the end of the one run and the beginning of the next one. But there was an 8-week gap between the end of the Wheel in Space and the beginning of the Dominators. So they thought, brilliant, we'll fill it. Sorry, not an 8-week gap, 7-week gap. I do apologise. Yeah. Evil of the Daleks is 7 weeks. So, yeah, they filled it with a repeat of Evil of the Daleks, and the way they staged it, it was all done in worlds, as it were, whereby the Doctor, as you can see bottom right there, uses a little gadget, a gizmo, to show the new companion who has just come on board in the Wheel in Space, Zoe Herriot, played by Wendy Padbury. So the Doctor shows her, brings up on the screen the Evil of the Daleks for her to watch, as an example of this is what you've got to look forward to, having just joined the TARDIS team. And so this ran for 7 weeks, the immediate week after the end of the Wheel in Space, and it ran right up to the beginning of the Dominators, which then began the week after the repeat of Evil of the Daleks.
Simon, we were just talking about brilliance and inventiveness and creativity. This is the epitome of that,
isn't it? It was really, really clever. It was such a clever way to fill the season. And so rather than just sticking a repeat on, they actually, as I say, do it in story. And both the Doctor and Jamie sit and watch this story with Zoe on a screen. Beautiful. So that was the very first summer repeat. Now, nothing happened then for a couple of years. Until 1971, when they repeated Spearhead from Space episode 1. Then there was another 4-year gap, but then it's in 1975 that it really starts to kick off with these regular summer repeats. August 1975, the Ark in Space enjoyed an omnibus repeat, and
gotcha.
That began the run that was then to continue for 10 years, right up until 1984. This week in 1976, we were enjoying an omnibus repeat of the Sontaran Experiment, and I recall this as clear as if it was yesterday, because I was 8 years old and I was just so excited by an omnibus repeat of the Sontaran Experiment. The year after 1977, The Deadly Assassin, there it is, top right. 1977, as I said, The Deadly Assassin, and of course it's the repeat that we have got to blame for the fact that the end of episode 3 was truncated, was edited, was cut. The final shot of the Doctor drowning was cut, and was nearly lost forever. And so we've literally got the repeat to blame for that, because it was the repeat that cut it.
Oh, I see.
This week in 1979, we were enjoying The Pirate Planet. Again, I enjoy this. Recall this so clearly. August 1980 was Destiny of the Daleks and City of Death. August 1981, Full Circle.
Now, I remember all of these now. As you get through into the late 70s, I remember them. I had wondered where the tradition of repeating had come from. I think I'd assumed that they always did it, because when I was a kid, all of this was in full swing, and it wasn't just Doctor Who.
No, it was very much a Doctor Who thing. So yes, so we got the Pirate Planet, we got the androids of Tara, Destiny of the Daleks, the City of Death. Yeah, Full Circle. Full Circle, I remember very clearly because it was stripped across 1 week, 4 episodes, Monday to Thursday, and then the following week.
I don't remember that.
And again stripped across 1 week. That was terribly exciting. And we also got in August 1983 The Visitation, that you can see bottom left.
Yeah, I remember that.
Kinzer, Black Orchid, all of these 3 stories were stripped across 1 week in July and August 1983. Just such exciting times. Or this week in 1984, The King's Demons, bottom right there, that was screened. King's Demons episode 1 was today, in fact, and that was screened across 2 weeks. And I remember this one clearly because I was actually on holiday at the time, and I remember just panicking, picking up the Radio Times whilst on holiday, reading that the King Stevens was on, and phoning my aunt at home and begging her to record it on VHS.
This was the one that I recorded. That transmission was the one I recorded and kept forever. I've still got it.
brilliant. And in also the same year, The Awakening was also screened in an omnibus, and then
I've got that too.
In August. I don't know whether you remember this one, Dan. They screened The Five Doctors in 4-episode format. It was the first time we'd ever seen it in 4 episodes. And again, it was stripped one night of the week across 4 nights, Monday to Thursday, all 4 episodes of The Five Doctors in episodic format. And before we move on to our final little section on this, I think it's time for Charlotte to say goodnight. So we will let you pass as we get all nostalgic about our summer.
You have fun.
Good night, Charlotte.
We'll catch up with you
next week.
Night, Charlotte.
Night.
Because the reason we sort of stopped off at summer repeats specifically because I remember this so clearly, and this is why Dan, you very brilliantly did us a whole advert break there from 1982, because 1982 was a big year for Doctor Who fans, because we got the same as with the 5 Faces of Doctor Who, we got out of Doctor repeats. So all of the repeats that I've just listed down were all repeats from the previous season. So what they would do, Matt, is they would take 2 or 3 stories from the series that had just finished, and that's what they would screen in the summer. Whereas in 1982 we got out of Doctor repeats because we got the brilliant Doctor Who and the Monsters season, which basically contained 3 stories: The Curse of Peladon, Genesis of the Daleks, and Earthshock. And these were billed as Doctor Who and the Monsters. You can see there. So again, I remember opening the Radio Times on this and just my heart skipping a beat to see that the summer repeats. We had come to expect summer repeats at this point, but we weren't expecting The Curse of Peladon, a John Pertwee story from what was about sort of 8 years previously at that point, 6-7 years previously. And it's billed, as you can see there, as the Ice Warriors. And then so what they did with these is they did them in 2 omnibus episodes. So we had 2 50 minutes of the Curse of Peladon, 1 episode 1 week, 1 episode the following week. They followed that with Genesis of the Daleks, which they billed, as I say, as the Daleks. So this particular one was the Dalek section. And they did a truncated version of Genesis of the Daleks again in 2 episodes. And the following week after that, we got the Cybermen, as you can see there, where we had Earthshock again in 2 50-minute episodes. And this was just, to me, just the most exciting thing. Interestingly, Genesis of the Daleks was the very, very first Doctor Who that I ever recorded on VHS, because we got our VHS recorder, our very first Ferguson Video Star video recorder between Peladon and Genesis, and so I got to tape Genesis and I got to tape Earthshock, and I watched them until the tapes fell apart, because they were the first Doctor Who stories that I
This was so exciting. How long had it been in between the 5 Faces of Doctor Who and this, Simon?
2 years. Nearest damn it 2 years, getting on for 2 years. Because the 5 Faces season was sort of was it? No, I'm just trying to think about this now. Was it? No, actually, it was a year. Dan, I'm thinking about it, because it was late '81, wasn't it?
And it was in the winter as well, wasn't it?
Say again, sorry.
And it was in the winter, wasn't it? Around the November.
This was about 8-9 months later. In fact, and we got John Nathan Turner, of course, to thank for this. He was the one that pushed for it, because the 5 Faces had been so successful. So thinking about it, it was sort of getting on for a year later that John Nathan Turner had seen the success of the 5 Faces season and pushed for another one. I'm trying to think. These were on BBC One, though. That was the difference. That the 5 Faces season was on BBC Two.
Was on 2, yeah.
Whereas the Monsters season was on BBC One. And to put this in context for you, these episodes did phenomenally well. I mean, ironically, they got more viewing figures than the series that has just finished, than the first shooting.
Really?
Yeah, they got an average of 5 million viewers. All of these episodes.
Don't find that hard to
on a midweek slot, Matt, in the height of summer. And in those days, summers were good. They're not like our summer now, where it just rains and rains and rains. These were good hot summers, and yet he got 5 million views, which was good. Those were good repeat figures in those days. And prime time weeknight slot on
yeah, it is quite late, isn't it, for Doctor Who to be on 7:20 in the evening like that? But as you say, I mean, this was repeat season. This is on British television. Traditionally, they don't put new content out during sort of July and August, and this is what they would do. So there wouldn't be any new drama, even though Doctor Who had previously been on at like 5:45 or whatever. Whack it on at the best, nearly 7:30. It was really, really exciting. Just the same as you described, Simon. I remember seeing them in the Radio Times. I was thinking, oh my God, they're doing it again, and just wondering what would be next. I mean, I kind of hoped it would go on for longer than just the 3 stories, but it was that. All of these stories stayed with me as well, just the same way the Five Faces ones did.
Yeah. Oh, undoubtedly. And I remember loving Earthshock at the time that it was first broadcast, but it was undoubtedly me getting to record Earthshock on the repeat. And as I say, I literally watched it until I knew every single line. And I still think now I could start at the beginning of Earthshock and give you the entire script over the space of a couple of hours, because I just literally watched Earthshock to death. And it's still, as a result, one of my absolute all-time favourite stories. And I think I've got the Monster season to thank for that. It was just the sheer excitement of being able to. I suppose as well,
Simon, when it had screened originally, we didn't know that it was going to become a pivotal story. No. Did we? We watched it play out. We didn't even know the Cybermen were in it until with the initial until the end of the first episode. Let alone that Adric would die.
Yeah.
But how long was it? So just a few months later.
Yes.
This story was already legendary.
Absolutely, it wasn't long afterwards that this one had been screened, but it was a while since Genesis of the Daleks had been screened. Genesis had a Christmas omnibus repeat, I think in Christmas '76, as I recall. So it had been a while, and so I certainly couldn't remember when I got to see Genesis, even though it was in a truncated form. I hadn't seen Genesis for quite a while. And the thing is, Matt, what you've got to remember is that we just didn't get repeats much like this. As I say, there was so little chance to see these stories again, and so it was just desperately exciting to do.
Yeah, no, I remember we had omnibuses as well. In the later 80s, they showed all the Tom Baker ones on a Saturday afternoon. And strung them all together, so it was amazing. I used to up about 12. I used to just sit there and watch for 2 hours straight. It was great. I loved it. I was always upset they never went to any other doctor, but
Yeah, I'm shocked I'm shocked by that comment from Over the Overseer that he'd never been a fan of Earthshock. But I suppose if you started for Who, it would have been very exciting. I can assure you, Over the Overseer, we weren't really starved for Doctor Who at that point. I think we had very, very high quality Doctor Who. I think those Peter Davison years are very, very high quality Doctor Who. So I don't feel
very
really
underrated.
Very underrated. It's very underrated. So
it was a fresh time. To be a fan, to find the show, or if you've been into the show for a long time, to see it sort of really brought up to date and given a proper tune-up was really, really exciting. Yeah. And there was that refreshed interest in the kind of what we now call legacy, I suppose, Jack. In the now we talk about the past of the show all the time, and it all exists sort of side by side. But it didn't then, and these little peeks back into what had been before, since before one was born, were just gold. It's a golden opportunity.
Yeah.
And as I say, it was as a Doctor Who fan in those days, it was very exciting because you would literally, because of course, again, remember, we didn't know what was coming up. The earliest knowledge you would get of a repeat would be literally when the Radio Times landed on the mat and you opened it and you just prayed that they would be doing a repeat that particular year, but you didn't know, you hadn't got a clue whether they would do one where you get one. But it did have an unbroken run from sort of 76 right the way through to 84. It did have an unbroken run.
See,
sorry,
Matt. I'm just saying, see, I realise now, like being with you guys and that, how lucky we were here in Australia, where you know it was Doctor Who.
We just didn't get it, Matt.
We never ever, you know, it never ended. And then one day it just stopped, and we, you know, how much we missed it, you know.
But it's funny, you know, Matt, because yes, on the one hand, you're right that you had wall-to-wall Doctor Who, and so was that better? Maybe, I don't know. There was just something I can still remember, as you were saying, Dan. You remember Full Circle and the Keeper of Traken. I still remember just the absolute overwhelming excitement of sitting down. I can literally remember it as clear as yesterday. I know where I was sitting on which sofa in the lounge when Full Circle started for the repeat. It's that big to me because it was so exciting to think, wow, I'm going to watch episode 1, and then tomorrow I can see episode 2, and the next night episode 3. It was beyond exciting. And so I think because we had so little Doctor Who, you just really appreciated every last bit that you got, because it was such a mammoth event for you to see.
It was, very, very high. And we've got this comment here from Matthew Pounder in the live chat watching on YouTube, who says we would watch a video of an omnibus at school when a teacher was off sick. Ian Scale says, imagine seeing it at school. I can't imagine that, Ian. That certainly wasn't the norm at school in the 80s.
Never, ever, ever happened at my school. That's for sure.
remember they always used to sit us down and watch, you know, a video of some educational crap in the primary school, and then Basil Brush would come on afterwards and be like, "No, we want to watch Basil Brush."
It's a pity that Doctor Who and the Monsters sort of gets left in the shadows of the Five Faces of Doctor. It's understandable, but a pity, because it definitely left a mark, didn't it?
Yes. Well, as I say, it certainly left a mark on me. It was just a good time to be a Doctor Who fan, because we'd had the Five Faces season the year before, which had just set the world on fire for Doctor Who fans. But to get this, as you say, Dan, it would have been nice to have had it longer, but it didn't matter. I didn't feel cheated. I'd got 3 stories, 2 of which I could barely remember. I had seen them both on original transmission, could barely remember them. So yeah, it left a big impact on me, and this was the point. I was undoubtedly becoming utterly obsessed by Doctor Who. You know, this is where the obsession really was taking hold, and there was no turning back for me at this point. They were just happy days to have those summer repeats, and as I said, the viewing figures alone speak for themselves. Other people enjoyed them as well, and we think that the sort of summer is a barren time. And it isn't necessarily. You can make television work even through the summer. Again, if you put the right stuff on.
Not only that, but you got to remember too, Simon, that's on BBC One, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's not on some secondary channel.
Yeah. No.
So you know, when it's
7:20.
when they're showing it on the major channel.
I can't remember what day. I should have gone back and had a look on a calendar to see what day these were actually screened on. I have a sneaky suspicion that they were actually screened on either a Monday or a Wednesday opposite Coronation Street. I have a feeling they might have been.
They were definitely weeknights, because I remember not making it back quite in time to see the resolution to the second half of Genesis of the Daleks. So I missed the first 10 minutes, and being absolutely mortified. And I think it's because we were going somewhere, coming back from somewhere.
Yeah. They were. I have a feeling they might have been opposite Coronation Street. So again, that sort of says it all. To get 5 million views as a repeat was pretty good going.
Simon, why did that tradition of repeats, either repeat seasons like that or just repeats here and there, why did that stop? Because it didn't stop for other shows.
I think, in all honesty, I think the date tells you everything you need to know. 1984. That was the end of the repeats. 1985, by then, Doctor Who, sadly, the public is falling out of love with it. Colin Baker's arrived. The viewing figures for the main show are beginning to dip by 1985. And then, of course, by 1986, it was falling off a cliff, sadly. It had been cancelled, etc. So that's, I think it's as simple as that, Dan. I think it was just in the timing. At this point, you see, what you've got to think about is that 1982. So this is to say is the first full series for Peter Davison. The viewing figures for the main show at this point were like 10, 11 million viewers. It was getting phenomenal viewers.
It was still a formidable show, wasn't it? People would have you believe that it failed once Tom Baker left, but it really didn't.
No, it was ironically, it was Tom's last season that was doing poorly. That was sort of getting 6, 7, 8 million viewers. And as I say, Peter Davison came along and it went to 10, 11 million viewers. And continued really right through Peter Davison's run. It was huge right through Davison's run. And as I say, it was only really with Colin Baker's years that it began to decline. And I think that's the simple reason why they stopped repeating, which is a tragedy, really, because they were doing well.
Excuse me, Simon, but didn't they change the date? Didn't they change the days for Peter Davison's era as well?
They changed it every year. I think the Davison was doing it, didn't they?
Yeah, I think that Davison's first series, I think, was Monday and Tuesday, or was it Tuesday and Wednesday? Then there was one that was Tuesday and Thursday, I think, was season 20. They literally changed the days, as Dan says, every year. All 3 Davison series were on 2 different days in that particular week. So they set the days at the beginning and they stuck with those days, but then they changed them the following year. And then, of course, it was with Colin Baker that they came back to the Saturday night. That was when it moved back to there.
Some
but it
great
was not
memories.
because the show was failing. It's all far from it. Sorry.
Jack Thursby says it's crazy to think they're all available at the touch of a button on iPlayer today. It seems less special that way. And Rob Alexander reminds us that it was Mondays. And it was Blake Seven's old slot, because Blake Seven obviously ran up until 1981. Brilliant. And they used to repeat Blake Seven every season. They always repeated Blake Seven in the summer in that slot. So he's quite right. No Blake Seven. What should we put on instead? Doctor Who. That must be what it was.
I'm glad you reminded me of that. I completely forgot, but yes, you're spot on. That's where it was. So that does mean it was opposite Coronation Street. So that puts it in context. It did really well opposite Coronation Street as a repeat.
Its own.
Yeah.
I see. Yes, so Darren remembering their Thursdays and Fridays for season 21. Yes, they changed it up all the time. But yeah, those repeat seasons. People talk about them now, Jack. That they should put repeats on BBC 4. BBC 4 might not be a thing for very much longer. They show a lot of repeats on there now. I think it's mostly comedy, isn't it? And is there a home for Doctor Who there now? I mean, that's where they put the colorized one. That's where they put the Pyramids of Mars, the new version of that the other week. Yeah. So maybe here and there, but perhaps a whole season could be a reach too far when you've got the app already.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, before we had like this whole iPlayer collection and stuff, I remember with the early seasons of Modern Who, you used to get the repeats on Watch, which I remember when I didn't have DVDs, I always used to like try and catch them, especially with Series 6, because, well, I mean, I had to watch those episodes on repeat because I didn't bloody understand what was going on. But like repeats, I do miss that. But I guess it's, unfortunately a sign of the times, as we've said, that everything's on iPlayer now. You got apps streaming and stuff. And
do you know what though, Jack? It's funny. I don't know whether, Dan, you remember this in the UK, but back in 2005 when they did the first Eccleston series, and that had been so huge that they repeated the whole series again. And that literally still, it got billboard posters up again for the repeats of it. I'm kidding you not, Jack. It was huge. Because again, this was before streaming, so you couldn't just leap on and watch those Eccleston episodes again. So they repeated the whole run, and as I say, it got just as much publicity as the original run. I couldn't believe I'd never seen. Obviously,
that much excitement around Doctor Who,
but for repeats, just unheard of. So back in the day, they were still huge. Repeats were still huge then. It's only latterly that obviously there's no collateral to repeats anymore because it, as has been said, it's just all there. It's all available on streaming.
Yeah.
At least they kind of reassemble these, don't they, in one form or another, whether it's the omnibus repeats and different versions, and put them on the Blu-rays for the people who may be very nostalgic about them or would have recorded them at the time. But no, thanks, Simon, for bringing back some fantastic memories of Doctor Who and the Monsters.
It's just they were just happy days, and it just sort of seems odd that, as I say, when I clocked that the Monster season was on this year back in 82, and then when I started to look, I realized, oh blimey, I can't believe it, actually this week, going back through the years, there was a Doctor Who repeat on, as I say, The Invisible Enemy, Sontar Experiments, Pirate Planet, The King's Demon, Spear from Space. These were all on this week back in the day, so this was the time for those summer repeats. So they were happy days to be a Doctor Who fan, definitely.
This was the time indeed, and that was the Doctor Who Diary with Simon Horton. Thanks again, Simon, for putting it all together. It's it warms my cockles. Maybe it does yours as well. Show your appreciation and share more memories with us in the comments. By all means, whether it was Doctor Who and the Monsters, the 5 Faces of Doctor Who, all those repeats from earlier in the 70s. Maybe you remember the repeat of Evil of the Daleks, even. I don't know. If you came later, did you watch the repeats on Watch, just like Jack did? And what do you think of the argument that says that they should find a permanent home for maybe some sort of banded repeat seasons on BBC4? Do you think that people would watch that? Do you think there'd be excitement around it? I think they probably would, Simon.
I think they would.
Maybe one day. Maybe one day. Yeah, this is Type 40 live Doctor Who, streaming across Rumble, X, YouTube, and on Facebook too. And we've got live chat comments coming at us from all angles while we talk about the past, the present, and the future of all things Doctor Who. As always, where to next? It's getting late.
So you went into a phone box with a mobile phone. They phoned me. It was raining. It was pouring the rain. That's why. So I went there to get. So you went into a phone box, and you had a mobile
to cry in private.
I was hoping it was a TARDIS. Swat.
Ooh, needs to wash his mouth out with soap and water, doesn't he? Yes, one more thing, everybody. As always, we're rounding things off with a last look at the view screen. It's our regular eye up your temporal schism in search of the prettiest pictures from out there in the Whoniverse. Whether it's traditional art, digital art, cosplay, or crafting, it's all fair game here for our panel to have a good butchers, and for you in the live chat there to have your say as well. First of all, let's stick with the 70s, shall we, Simon? I think you'll like this one. This comes from Paul Burley, and I think I better let the artwork speak for itself. It's a sort of faux movie poster concept, Matt. I know that you like this kind of thing as well, but this is a little bit unlike anything that I've ever seen before, and it might shit you up a bit, Jack. So mind your eyes. This is the day God went mad, Simon.
Wow.
We've got a list of credits at the bottom: Tom Baker, Louise Jameson. So what is the day God went mad? So what was that, and what's this for?
That warms the cockles of my heart. That The Day God Went Mad is the original title for The Face of Evil. That was the one under which it was written by Chris Boucher before Philip Hinchcliffe decided it was probably just a little bit too close to the knuckle and had it changed. That was the original title for The Face of Evil, and that just absolutely fills me with joy. That's one of the best pieces of art that we've had on the show.
It's really stunning, isn't it?
That. Stunning is the word. That's a film and a half, isn't it? That is a film. I love that.
Beautifully created by Paul. I don't believe I've come across his work before. It's digital work, but he's managed to really capture Tom Baker's solemn look, the unmistakable look of Tom Baker, and that moment in the story where, well, there's lots of moments in that story where we're not really sure what's going on. Superb artwork. Says Stephen Braddock. Ezra Goldstein says it's a fantastic Doctor Who poster, and lots of other comments too. Very nice and superb. Yeah, I found this really arresting. It proper stopped me in my tracks when I saw it over on X. And here's the clean artwork as well from Paul that goes with that.
It's just quite scary, isn't it?
I love that background.
Yeah,
just works, doesn't it? It's very 70s, but very modern at the same time, Jack.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
It looks the sort of Tom's face is very much sort of modelled on the title sequence, the photo from the title sequence, but it's not exactly the same. It's not exactly the same. Paul has sort of adapted it, so it's not like it's a copy of. It's just inspired by that sort of very somber face, as you say, Dan. But it's those eyes, isn't it? Gosh, those eyes being white.
Yeah,
quite chilling.
Matthew Pounder is glad they changed the title. Mary Whitehouse probably was as well, just as Over the Overseer says. Yeah,
I loved the original title. I wish they'd kept that title. Really.
Holy crap, says Len looks back. I think he likes it, Matt. I think he likes it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really nice. It's something that I would actually have on my wall.
Yeah.
Jack Thursby wants it as a poster. I think if you go and follow Paul over on X, if he hasn't got it available as a poster, either the clean art or the original poster there, the film poster style thing, then maybe if there's enough appetite, he'd be tempted to make it available. But yeah, I really like this. It did stop me dead in my tracks. It's a story that I'm not really that fond of. I know it's put up by Chris Boucher, but some of the imagery does stay with you. You know, I know how it makes me feel every time I see it.
It's ironically, it's my least favourite story of a great season. I don't find it that easy to watch, much as I love Chris Boucher. It doesn't resonate with me very well.
Little bit lumpy, yeah, a little bit lumpy.
Leela for me.
The Divining Dragon asks, where is Mary Whitehouse when we need her? We need to sick her on Russell T Davies right now.
That's what we do.
Scary Tom says Cam. And yeah, Leela's intro says Peter Harrington. Yeah, it's 100% always worth going back to, because Louise Jameson is fantastic from the get-go. It's been a while since we looked at any Dalek art here in the Pretty Pictures section, but I'm happy to say I've got another belter about to hit you right between the eyes. It comes from digital artist Phil Shaw, who's also over there on X. I only discovered Phil quite recently, but he's got a massive following and a huge portfolio of the most amazing pieces of artwork. And this is one of his latest ones. This is a Dalek Patrol.
Incredible.
That's classy, isn't it?
Yeah. It's the little details as well, because it's a mixture, I think, of 70s and 80s Daleks. Little details here and there that are different if you look at the dome, particularly the lights on either side. And I like the fact that Phil has chosen to include a little icon there underneath the eye stalk in the way that new series Daleks now have.
Yeah. And it's reminiscent of the eye that is in Genesis of the Daleks.
Genesis, yeah.
With the lightning bolts through it. It's. I mean, the livery is very much Genesis of the Daleks.
Yeah.
But the 80s bit that you're sort of referring to, that is very much the oval in between the two, the gun stick and the sucker arm. That's sort of 80s as well. But the livery is 70s through and through. Beautiful, that is. Absolutely beautiful.
You can almost imagine
Blade Runner.
Yeah, well, yeah, and you can almost imagine, Jack, that you're going to duck down so they don't see you. You think?
Yeah, they do look very menacing. But you know what? Seeing this artwork of the Daleks, it's really made me miss them all of a sudden.
Yes,
that's exactly how I felt when I saw this.
Good point, Jack.
Yeah, I haven't seen them in a while, and it would be nice to, see some classic Daleks as well. Definitely.
I think the time could be right. I think the time could be right to return to this sort of kind of basic design, certainly as a template, Matt, and less is more, isn't it? And nothing proves it better probably than Phil's work here.
Not in this series, that's sure. I wouldn't.
No, I'm speaking. Speaking
I'd be
generally,
worried
though.
about what. I'd be worried about what Shooty would do to them, to be honest, especially with their plungers. So anyway, no, I mean, I love it. It's awesome. It's I love when people take the time to actually make some really beautiful art like this. So yeah.
And I must be honest, I look at it's my own fault. I'm a classic Who fan, but I do prefer the classic Daleks to the new.
So do I now.
Oh, I hate the brass ones or whatever. You call them. You call them bronze, don't you?
Yeah, bronze, whatever we want to call them. To me, it's just I'm not being critical of them. They're fine. They're good. There's nothing wrong with them. But I just prefer these Daleks. To me, the new series Daleks are just a bit too over-designed. I like, as you say, Dan, the sort of simplicity of these. They're much cleaner and leaner and meaner somehow for me. Than the new series Daleks, which just look a little bit over-designed. These look very utilitarian and industrial and thus scary as hell. Yeah.
Production design. I think production design in TV and film has come a long way in 20 years, and there's every reason now. It's no disrespect on Ed Russell, wasn't it, who redesigned the Daleks back in 2004, created the bronze. It's no disrespect on Ed to go back to them now, 2 decades on, and think differently about them. And look at those lines, the cleaner lines, and think about what would truly scare people about the Daleks as we're in the mid-2020s.
Absolutely. And Matthew Pounder says Battle Grey were the best. Yes, Battle Grey were the best. Because, again, they just look scary as hell. A gold Dalek, a bronze Dalek, might be impressive, but it's not particularly scary. Whereas you look at those, and those just look scary. They're nightmarish.
I think they're more soldierish, whereas the other ones seem to be a hierarchy, And
if you think about it, certainly with Shooty, but the way how colourful the series is at the moment, and I'm going to be generous here and say it's colourful and energetic at its best.
It is.
And Shooty, the things that he wears as the Doctor are largely, they're not as colourful and as primary as the thing that bloody Whittaker was wearing, but he does come across as that kind of vivid character. So if the Daleks look like this, looming in on a character like that, I think that could work really, really well on screen. We've got so many comments here, pouring love onto Phil's work here. A lovely detail, wow, says Peter Harrington. A very resurrection, says Matthew Pounder. There's a lot of elements of both the 70s and the 80s that are in here. Day of the Daleks, Len looks back, references. And David Jenkins says, oh my word, that is amazing. A Delectable, says Rob Alexander. Always love that pun. I like to get that one in every single time. And the red dot on the gun stick is like the one of the 5 Doctors. Yes, you're absolutely right. Bloody hell. Well spotted.
Yeah, spot on. Hadn't noticed it, but yeah, you're right.
Cool Daleks, says Duncan. Amazing, says Mark.
I love that little glint, just right in the centre. The glint.
Yeah, me too.
The top neck ring, beautiful.
Because you don't really need to see the grills in between those rings, do you? The fact that they're there is enough. The cutting angle of those 2 slats there, that with the light hits them.
And in a way, I do find it frustrating and disappointing that the new series doesn't do Daleks like this, because as much as I love these classic Daleks, in the show they did look worn and battered, because Hell's Teeth, they were worn and battered, and they did wobble and they shook and they weren't great. So to give them the budget now to do this design identical to this, but just in really good, robust, modern props, they could just look stunning, absolutely stunning.
Jack Thursby says, I want an art book full of lovely Dalek art like this. We'll go and hit up Phil Shaw on X, and please tell him that Type 40 sent you. That's how this works. We like you to tell them where to send their artwork, or just direct us their way. It's a 2-way street, and we get to look at more fabulous artwork here at Type 40 Live. And to finish off, we've got this, something a bit warmer, because we don't want to go to bed, do we, Jack, with the Daleks right in our faces like that. We need something a bit warmer. How about this one from Magamo 2 with the third Doctor there, with the cape, the arms, that sort of signature look there of John Pertwee's Doctor. He used to call it the wings of the mother hen, didn't he? So he's got his arms up there and his Inverness cape flowing, and Sarah Jane and Joe are there gathered beneath.
Fan of manga, that one.
Yeah.
That's very sweet, isn't it? He's captured Katie Manning's likeness particularly well.
Yeah.
He, she.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I said the third Doctor reminds me more of our friend Scott Goodman's portrayal, but that's not a bad thing, Scott. If you're out there, I hope you're well.
Well, it's immediately the third Doctor, isn't it, Dan? That's the thing.
Yes,
the cape,
that's the point.
It's the hair, it's the ruffled shirt, it's the necktie. It's just sweet, isn't it? It's things like that make you realize why you love Doctor Who, just because it's just warm and fuzzy and nice, and it's good, isn't it? Good days.
Pertwee Rocks says Divining Dragon. It's fantastic Doctor Who artwork according to Ezra Goldstein watching on YouTube.
Yeah.
Lovely, says Crimpling Doubloon. And Jack Thursby says it's Miyazaki. Can you pronounce that?
Miyazaki style. I know what you mean.
Yes.
Jack.
There you go.
Yeah,
between us, we got there. It took 3 of us to pronounce one bloody word. Sod me. Simply a heart there from Peter Harrington. And where's the brig? Says Fly Highland. You can't please all the people all the time, Magamo too. But
don't worry, Fly Highland. The brig is literally just out of shot, scowling at the Doctor.
Who do you think's drawing a picture?
Absolutely love it. Fantastic artwork of the Doctor with his companion under his wings, says Stephen Braddock. And the Big Blue Box podcaster in too. What a great image and cool stream, guys. Thank you so much. I don't know if that's Adam or Gary or both of you, but yeah, check out the Big Blue Box. Hail John Pertwee, says Ezra Goldstein. Never a bad thing, never a bad note to end a show on. I don't think so.
Love John Pertwee so much.
Yeah.
Oh, you say I'm not a Pertwee guy, but since doing Type 40 Live with so many Pertwee fans, yourself and Ian in particular, I'm starting to feel really, really fond of not only him but his era. And very nice, says Campsite. The compliments keep coming. Reach out to Magamo too as well over on Instagram and X, and let them know that we love their artwork. We want to see more of it here at Type 40 Live. Send us their way or them our way. We don't really care how it works, as long as we get fabulous fan art to fill up these bloody plain white walls there. My God. You can also reach out to us through our social media at Instagram and X at Type 40 Doctor Who. So there are lots of places to get in touch with us and to send various things in our direction. Peter Harrington says we need Liz Truss, is that? She's only just gone. I think he means Liz Shaw there. So maybe put in a request with Magamo 2, and maybe they'll see what they can do, or we'll reach out to them. Whatever, we'll get it to them. Okay, sis. So that's the social medias. What else? Head over to Facebook if you want even more. Cut out the middleman. Join up with the Type 40 Facebook group. I'm not saying all 4 of these guys are members of our Facebook group, but you'll never know for certain which, if any, are until you join up too. Simply go over to Facebook, type 40 into the search field, and we will arise. Which is not... God, that sounds awful. We'll make ourselves known very, very quickly. Okay, this has been Type 40 Live across Rumble, YouTube, X, and on Facebook too, in front of a live chat full of friends, fans, and companions just like you. Come on, England. Come on, England. When's the final? I have no idea.
Who cares?
Who cares? Yes, is Darren still up? Sorry, Darren, but yeah, this is we're just doing our bit there for the football fans who are out there. Obviously, we are very proud of England really making it to the final, as long as I don't have to watch it.
Yes, that's it, Dan. Spot on.
Instead, you can binge watch some of our other live streams. Lots of new people watching the show tonight. Thank you very much. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, check you're still subscribed if you think you're subscribed, and hit the cloister bell to get all our notifications. If you haven't already, you may have missed some of these. So there's our fabulous coverage of the last season of Doctor Who. Lots of live streams and instant reaction shows to those season finales and that special presentation of Pyramids of Mars just a few short weeks ago. There's also our deep dive reviews too. Robots of Death was the last one. We've got another one on the starting grid coming very, very soon, Simon.
Ooh.
And there's the regular Type 40 live stream as well. Jack, fabulous to have you back. It's been a while, but it's been great to catch up with you and find out where you are with it all after a really intense couple of months.
Yeah. Tell you what, it's been absolutely fantastic to be back with you all and to be talking about Doctor Who, whether it be good or bad. You know, it's always good to be with fellow fans and
spot on.
You know,
good, the bad, and the ugly.
As well, it's always good to have a conversation.
They've got more comments here. Same here, Jack, says Matthew Pounder. I'm not sure. I think it's just a general thing there from Matthew Pounder. Jack Thursby decided recently that John and Tom are my joint favourites.
Oh, and Jack, I'm with you.
No, wrong answers.
I grew up with them both, and they are my favourites.
Yep. Stephen Braddock says, I'm sending you some Pertwee art. Don't threaten us with a good time. We
look forward to it. Bring it on.
We'll come looking for you. Thanks, Simon, says Stephen Braddock. There you go. Thank you, everyone. In Type 40, fantastic podcast as always,
thanks,
and lots more. God, thank you. Praise Redacted and all that jazz. Matt, as the only real-life time traveller here on the panel, how is Friday looking, and what are your thoughts and hopes for the weekend?
No, you always ask me this, but it's cold. It's going to be wet again, and I'm just
same here.
Yeah. Did you ask me what it was like on the weekend?
Yeah. What are your predictions? Well, you dressed like
I think
you're dressed like a sage.
The soccer. So.
You bastard! No, but you're dressed like a bit like a fortune teller on this edition of the show. You just need a crystal ball there.
Yeah. No. I
Bless you.
Like I said, I'm Ruby's mother, so there you go.
Ruby's mother. That sounds like Cockney rhyming slang for something, but I don't know what it would be.
Dirty stuff over here. About Ruby's mother. We're just having a good time here. Stop spoiling it.
Simon, as ever, thank you for your company and the fabulous Type 40 Live Doctor Who Diary.
I'm back out tomorrow morning, erecting more portaloos in the rain.
How many have you got to do?
I don't know. I'm going to be seeing portaloos in my sleep.
Oh no!
My God! Look, there's more of this. Join us again next time, same time and space for more hot takes, pet peeves, rants, raves, and everything in between here at Type 40 Live. We'll keep on breaking the fourth wall so they don't have to. That's a fair exchange, Simon. We don't want any more of that nonsense, do we? I think it is time that we blast off. We always have the time if you have the space here at Type 40 Live. Have a great weekend. We'll see you all again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.